Hello, everyone. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 6th of March, 2026, and I'm your host, Carey Holzman. A shout out to our good friends over at VIP-URCDKEys. I tried to put together a little bit more than just still photos for you so you can get a better idea of how the whole thing works. In fact, let me just pull that video up right now. And here's a video of mine from the other day. And if you scroll down on any of my videos, you'll see right here under the date and the number of views it has there, it says more. That's the video notes I keep talking about. And when you open that up underneath the video notes, you're gonna find a whole section just of links for Windows 11 and Office and even Windows 10 product keys. So whichever one you're interested in, just click on one of those, as I've just done here, and then you'll be brought to that specific page. Now, you will need to sign in or create an account before you can make a purchase. If I try and buy it right now, it says, you know, who are you? So either go ahead and put in any previous credentials if you've bought here before, or down below it says to sign up. Once you've signed in, then you'll go ahead and put your coupon code right back in there. That's Carey, and that's going to make that price there that you see on your screen go down 25%. And you can just verify that the code applied correctly, and then submit your order. When you submit the order, it's still not complete until you pay for it, and they have multiple ways, such as PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Google Pay, and a couple others there, including Mint. Once you've selected your option and go through that process, then you'll just hit Pay Now, and you're going to get an email in your inbox within a couple of minutes, within about 2 minutes usually. That's going to confirm a receipt that, yes, we collected money from you for this product, and your payment is in process. Once your payment's processed, which is again another 2 or 3 minutes, you should get another email that says, here is your product code, or click here to see your product key. It'll also provide a lot more information with regards to where do you get the product. So if it's Microsoft Office or if it's Windows, well, I've shown you how to get Windows. They do it a different way. Either way works. Pick whatever way you want. We don't show you how to get Office because, well, things have changed a lot in that area, but they give you a direct download link from downloading directly from Microsoft. So you're not getting it from a third party. You're getting the legit Microsoft Office. One of the reasons I recommend just using their link is because there's about 12 different versions of Office, from Small Office, Home Office, Student and Teacher Edition, and then Pro and Pro Plus, and there's so many different versions, and the license code that they're providing you with is for a specific version. Just like if you downloaded a Windows 11 Pro license key, that will not work on Windows 11 Home. It's just not going to work. And then you might think, oh, this key they sold me doesn't work. No, you've installed the wrong product. And you can avoid that by simply following the simple directions in the email that you get along with your code. So you'll go through the whole process, enter the code when prompted, and then you're good to go. If you have any problems with it, they've got 6 months of free support. Just open up the chat right there and they'll help you out. And if you still run into any problems, you send us an email. There's our email address right there, showcasecreate@gmail.com. And if you need us to get involved, we will, to help straighten up any misunderstandings or mistakes. And for the most part, that's very rare anybody does that. It's been months since we've heard anybody say anything other than, yeah, I did what you said and it just worked like you said. Those are more often than not the emails we get. But if it's just you're an exception for whatever reason, something different has occurred that we're not accustomed to, all is not lost. You did not get ripped off. Again, they will usually make it right. But again, if we just pick a worst case scenario, something that rarely ever happens to you, okay, and then you ask them for help, and something that even more rarely ever happens is you can't get satisfaction, then you email us, and that's where it stops, because we will resolve it 100% of the time, every single time, but only if we need to. Don't just jump to that first, okay? Give them an opportunity to help you correct the issue, or for them to correct the issue if it's on their side. And then barring that, you have the final step there. And again, if this was something where I kept getting emails from people with problems, we would not be recommending their product. So they have a very good incentive to make sure you stay happy, okay? And for the most part, and you could probably ask people in the chat room here that have been with us for a while, you just order it, you get the email, and you follow the directions, and it works. That's all there is. It's all legit. It's all on the up and up, and it can save you a ton of money. And we don't make a commission on this link. So if you buy it or you don't buy it, I'm paid the same. So it's really up to you. If we find that people just don't need it and they don't want it, you know, if we're seeing month after month that coupon codes aren't being used, then there'll be no point in us offering it anymore. Okay, so we're doing it for the audience. We're not doing it for us. If we find the audience is more interested in something else overall, we'll certainly try and see if we can offer it to you guys at a cheaper price. That's it. That's all there is to it. It's not any more complicated than that. So thank you again for joining me today. I hope you're having a great Friday. Happy birthday to our friends Mitch and Mara. Yes, indeed, they have birthdays that are a couple days apart. Neither is actually today, but that's okay. So yeah, our good friend Mitch Morrison just had his birthday, and Mara's is coming right up. So this is the month of birthdays. We know a lot of people that have birthdays in March. I don't know what was going on in 9 months prior, but I have an idea. Those years ago, when that year they were born. Let me say hello to everybody. A shout out to our friend Buster, who sends us a very generous Amazon is it a gift. It's a PayPal payment, I think, isn't it? Hold on, let me check my email because I've already, you know, blinked my eyes and forgotten. Here we go. Our friend Mark Gaines with an Amazon gift card, very generous. Thank you, my friend Mark. He says this is my contribution in lieu of a super chat. And then our friend Buster, he sends PayPal contribution. Oh, thank you so much, and a very generous one at that. So as always, Buster and Mark Gaines. Buster watches us from Scotland. Mark Gaines is in Northern Ireland. Northern Scotland. Thank you so much for Mark Gaines is in Northern Ireland. Peter Lycock, our friend Buster, he's in Scotland. Thank you guys so much for your continued support and your friendship. I'm a little out of it. I think having the last couple days off here kind of lost my groove. I was looking around the office, the studio here, and seeing what I could demonstrate for you on camera. There's no secret that there's a very large lull in the industry. There's a stall. And I don't know if this is ever going to get back to the way it was. I don't want to sound all doom and gloom. I am hopeful that once we get over 2026 and well into 2027, we'll start seeing a lot more innovation in production again, but we may not. It's one of those things that the culture, the people around the world, how they respond to something is unpredictable. And if they respond by being patient and waiting until things become more affordable, then the industry will come back like it was. If they just kind of forget about it and move on to other things, then the industry will come back a little bit, realize they're just not selling like they used to, make some marketing attempts to try and drive up interest. But if the ship has sailed, if the consumer has moved on, then we'll be looking at other trends with regards to, well, it's hard to say what the trends will be. On the other hand, if people start flooding back again and things start to build back up the way they were, well, we'll keep doing exactly what we've been doing. All I'm trying to say is we might have to change what we're doing, and I'm not quite sure what I want that to be. The idea that I have been doing this, I've been fixing computers professionally since 1991. I don't know how long you think a normal career lasts, but almost anything you do in life, just about, unless you get lucky. I think our friend Buster picked a really good career. He was able to work his whole career and never had to worry about getting another career. Those are great stories. Those are the, you know, geez, when I was a kid, I thought that was the way things worked. But if you go back to the people who built horse carriages, you know, with the invention of the car, they all pretty much went out of business for the most part after Henry Ford was making the automobile really cheap. And then before refrigeration and electricity, you kept your food cold with ice, so there would be ice stores everywhere. And with the advent of refrigeration and electricity, the ice stores all went away for the most part, and became other things. You know, a store that sold ice today you might recognize as 7-Eleven. And such as our society, things keep changing. People that used to fix VCRs, you pretty much don't find those businesses anymore, and they weren't around as long as I've been doing this. That's why I say I've been very lucky, if, you know, this is winding down, which I hope it isn't, to be able to do this from, what is it, 2026 back to 1991 is 35 years, 36 years. That's a pretty long time. A lot of other careers may only last 30 years. Some even less than that, like VCR, DVD, CD repair, Laserdisc player repair. All that's pretty much gone. People, you know, the culture was all about having these items, and then switched over to things that were smaller, cheaper, more convenient. We used to buy TiVo. You guys remember TiVo? So we didn't have to watch commercials. TiVo could automatically skip the commercials for you. And that was one of the reasons I had a TiVo. And now the culture has shifted to wanting to watch commercials. They would rather watch commercials now, which is weird. But if you look at any TikTok or YouTube short reel or Facebook reel, YouTube shorts, you're essentially watching commercials. They're about 90 seconds long, and they're trying to sell you something usually. So instead of trying to show you ads that you want to skip past, they've now created the ads into the content where people are now wanting to watch advertising. So if I had a TiVo on TikTok, I would come back after 8 hours of recording and find 3 videos. You know, as somebody who grew up fast forwarding past the short content, that is so absurd to me that this is what our culture is doing. But you just can't control it. And the question is, okay, do I want to be a part of that? Jump on that bandwagon for however long that one rides, or do we just do something else entirely? So we're still, you know, happy to answer any questions you have, but the reality is we don't really see many questions anymore. This whole week I've had 2 support calls from my clients, and I think the week before that there were maybe 2 or 3. So that is slowing down. And the news, the places like PC World Magazine and HotHardware.com and Tom's Hardware, they'd rather publish gossip even if it's not true, because they want to be first. And this is something that is getting worse. I saw PC World published an article about Windows 12. There's no Windows 12. They said, well, you know, Microsoft says, is that Microsoft never said any of that. And then PC World just published an apology. But PC World also published, and so did Tom's Hardware, that Windows Update were killing SSDs. That wasn't true. It's never been true. This is more of the same. Now Hot Hardware says, hey, you know, join us on our Reddit. If you're having any problems, let us know. And I said, you know, I saw this on Twitter, and I said, are you guys just publishing gossip now because one person, some rando on Twitter, has a complaint? That's news? News, you know, gossip is news? And the guy replied, well, thankfully, that's up to me to decide. And I said, oh, so you're basically TMZ of tech journalism? Good to know. So one guy decides. So when I was writing it for tech journalism, we had to go through a technical editor, and we had to go through a layout specialist, somebody who would also check spelling and grammar. But the technical editor was your fact checker. And if your facts weren't there, your article wasn't going to get published. It didn't matter about grammar or spelling if what you wrote is simply not true. They don't do that anymore. They've cut those costs. So now one person, whoever the editor-in-chief is, just trusts the people to write articles, and they're hiring people. I'll tell you, just the other day, PC World again was talking about, you know, should 1 terabyte of SSD be the standard now? Because let's face it, programs are getting bigger, and your 512 gig drive is only going to be 480 gigs when you format it. And I'm like, we're still doing this? So if I said, this is so stupid, if I said 1 US mile is shorter than a kilometer. Sorry, it's longer than a kilometer is shorter than a mile. Okay, so I said, listen, do you want to do a 1 mile run with me, or would you like to do a 1.6 kilometer run? And you went, oh, I can't run as far as 1.6 kilometers, but I'll do the mile. It's a unit of measurement. And so when I see somebody who's writing for PC World magazine, one would assume they know what they're talking about, but they're hiring anybody, it appears, that will write an article and has even the smallest grasp of technology. And since the regular folks who don't grasp technology are getting this information they believe to be accurate, truthful, and trustworthy, are being lied to and fed misinformation. So they walk away thinking after you format a drive, it shows less space. They don't understand the unit of conversion is changing when you format a drive. We have gigabytes versus gigabytes, or gigabits versus gibbits. Most people are like, what is that word you're saying? Gibba? Yeah. Gibba, G-I-B-A, gigabytes. So a gigabyte is file storage capacity 10 to the 9th power of bytes. Well, gigabits measure data we're still in giga. I gotta find gibba, G-I-B-A, G-I-B-A. So you'll see a G with a lowercase I and a letter B, or just a capital G, capital B. These are two different measures. That's just like mile versus kilometer. The same amount of space on your hard drive is being reported two separate ways. Now, it's okay to not know this. I'm not making fun of people for not knowing it. I wondered about it for the longest time. I'm as guilty as anybody, but that was years ago I was taught, right? Because I've been in the business a long time. So one would assume if anybody's writing articles about tech, they must have some background in tech for some time to qualify for it. No. They could be 17 years old, and this is just a job they enjoy doing, and they just read online, and they don't have any real world experience, and they can't really explain to you what they're writing about. So if you ask that person, for example, who wrote this article, what exactly is happening after you format a drive that reduces its capacity? The answer they give you is entirely made up. They're just going through their imagination. And we have the answer right here. When you're writing the article and you can't answer the question that you should be asking yourself, nobody has to know you don't know. You can just Google it real quick, or you can ask AI. So there's no excuse for it today. And yet this was an article published just a couple days ago. This is going to get worse as the misinformation isn't known from the facts. People want to have the information first. They'll get the facts second, or they'll run an apology or retraction third, or they just won't say anything at all. And if you thought it was bad when, was it The Verge did their PC build that was just terrible from beginning to end, how much they denied, and eventually, you know, the internet harassed them to the point where they got sick and fed up with dealing with it and just took it down. Capital One was their sponsor, and even Capital One got hammered by people going, how could you sponsor this? It's so terrible. It's misinformation. It's dangerous information. And Capital One pulled their sponsorship. But they were very stubborn. It was The Verge, right? They were very stubborn about standing behind their team without any facts. It was all an emotional stance. We don't need that in this industry. We don't need emotions. We need facts, logic, evidence, and explanation in order to justify and explain it, because that's what we do. Now, if it's about making entertainment, you know, I didn't really learn a whole lot watching the Three Stooges. And if that's what they want to do, is they want to be the Three Stooges, they should label it as entertainment. Do not label it as tech news. And because they refuse to, you as the viewer, it's on you to be your own filter. Nobody's going to filter it for you. And this is going to start getting worse and worse and worse. I don't see that ever turning around. I mean, it must at some point where the fad and the culture will change. But I just want to give you a real world example of this. right? So you might say, okay, you know, I'm going off on my thing or whatever, but let me ask you, if we go to Reddit or we look online to social media forums, you'll constantly see somebody having a problem or complaining about something broken in Windows or Windows updates, right? And when I tell you that my clients, nobody's calling these problems, they're happening to one person over there. That's the person, that's the problem in most cases, not the computer. Whoever is doing that has done it multiple times. It's not their first time complaining. It's not their last time complaining. They don't understand how the technology works, and they're blaming the technology most of the time, most of it. So I want to give you a real live example, because we are live, and why not take advantage of this opportunity? We have how many people watching us right now? Let me take a look here. About 133 people watching all over the world, continents across the world. Does anybody have any problems with their computer? You can't print, networking is not working, computer won't turn on, blue screens, SSD failure, system blue crashes randomly, anything at all? Speak up. Out of 133 people, just out of a random sample across the entire planet that watches this video, you know, we got people in Europe and people in America, Canada, all over the world, Brazil. What I want to know is, when was the last time, or are you currently having a computer problem? And if so, please describe it to us. I don't want you to take my word. When I tell you all of this is nonsense, it's one person who's disconnected. And if you want to connect to that disconnection, have fun. But that's not how I run a business. I don't run a business from people who claim they have problems but aren't willing to call me to fix it. So when I'm telling you the phone isn't ringing, it's not simply because they don't like me. It's usually quite the opposite. When I'm there to fix their problem and I can do it cheaper and faster than the other people they called, they shop around. And they've stopped calling, or the number of calls I get is significantly reduced. It's not me because I did too good of a job. It's everything's getting much more reliable, and also people have moved away more to phones or tablet devices, which I don't work on. They're just too expensive to work on versus replacing them, quite frankly. I think if you buy a device that you think is expensive, you might consider going ahead and getting the extended warranty for that device. I'm not normally a fan of extended warranties, but you know you. And if you know you're prone to dropping things, or you've had some bad luck with the expensive items breaking, and you think, oh, of course it's going to break right out of warranty, buy that extended warranty. On the other hand, also think about, how much would this cost for me to replace it? So this phone is worth a lot less now than it was when I bought it. So if I just bought a refurbished S24, or I could trade it in and get a brand new S26 for $500, and the warranty's $300, maybe just wait till that day comes. But the more expensive it is, right? And of course, depending on how long it is that you've owned it, maybe no longer worth repairing. Parts may not even be possible. And even when the repair is done, it may not be done correctly. So you're without your device during the entire time it takes somebody to repair it. And when you get it back, the only way you know if it's fixed is to start using it again. A lot of repair warranties are typically about 30 days. So after 30 days, what do you do if a problem comes back? So you went without it for a while. You spent money, got it back for a while, and now you're going to go without it again. Maybe it would have been faster and cheaper to just go ahead and buy a new one, and you would have been through this. And if by chance your new one had any problems, you would simply return it or exchange it for another one. Wouldn't cost you anything other than the inconvenience. And isn't that enough? That's why the repair industry is dying. Consumers they don't want to pay a nickel for the work, and they want it done in 5 seconds. So as consumers become more demanding, but don't make it worth your while, you know, hey, do me a favor and clean my house and I'll give you a nickel. I'll tell you what, I think I'd rather not clean your house. Why don't you keep your nickel? And then articles go online saying the repair industry is dying and the right to repair this, that, and the other. It totally only sees one side of this and is completely oblivious and ignorant to what's happening in the industry from both the consumer side and the manufacturing side, where it's cheaper to manufacture something, oftentimes when it's these little phones and small gadgets, than it is to try and repair them. Sometimes the cases are glued shut. And again, depending on the value of the device, something that's a $2,000 tablet that's only 2 years old is probably worth repairing. But most people aren't buying that. Most people, the bulk of the computers and phones being sold are very lower end, cheaper models. And when those break outside of warranty, they're just faster and cheaper to buy a new one. And of course, if it's been 3 or 4 years since you bought one, it's due anyway, right? That's just your excuse to get the newer model. But that tends to be the way the consumers are behaving. And this whole right to repair thing sort of becomes a non-issue when it's cheaper and faster to buy a new one with a new warranty than to pay the money and wait for a repair that you hope will be right the first time, but it could go back to repair 3, 4 times. And all the time and money you invested in that didn't make it any worth any more, nor did you really extend its life much further than it already was by the time it failed. If it's already 3 or 4 years old, how much more do you think you're going to get out of it? Cut your losses. Just treat yourself to a new phone now that you have an excuse. Say, oh, I had to. What choice did I have? And get on with life. And who cares about right to repair in that type of a circumstance? Now, as I mentioned, there can be very expensive devices where right to repair can be vital. Especially specialty devices, farming equipment and things like that, or even cars in many ways. If people want to be able to work on their car, they should be able to. But you don't have any rights to getting the parts. And that's the second part of this that people forget about. If the only one who makes the part is the manufacturer, and the government says you have to allow people the parts, you have to make the parts available, they didn't say for how much. So yeah, for this $600 phone, you can buy this $400 battery. You say, it's ridiculous. I'm not paying $400 for a battery on a $600 phone that's 3 years old. Well, we're following the law. Well, for that much, I'll just buy another phone. Now it's your decision. Did you hear that, government? The customer said they wanted to buy another one. We did everything we were told to do. This is not an argument you're ever going to win, because there always is a loophole. There's always a way to work around whatever the obstruction is. That's what marketing people do. It's very clever. So you want to sit there and fight the man for your little teeny tiny victory? I mean, I'm all for it. I would love to if I was independently wealthy. That's the irony. I would just buy another one if I was independently wealthy. But if you're independently wealthy and you can spend all your time and effort fighting an entire industry that has still a lot more money than most of us have combined, thinking you're going to make a change, it'll be temporary, because the minute another voting session comes around, they'll just try and pass it to undo it. And if it doesn't undo, they'll do it again next year, the year after that, year after that, year after that. Look how long the tobacco industry in America stayed legal, in all the meetings in Congress and all of the denial the tobacco industry had regarding, oh, it doesn't cause cancer, it's not addictive, what are you talking about? And look how long that worked for them. And now there's the vaping industry. I'm just saying, you're not going to shut it down. When the music industry or Hollywood tries to shut down piracy sites and they succeed, what ends up happening? More piracy sites than ever happened before pop up. And if they start taking those down, it's like you're just spreading weeds. You should have just left the one alone instead of drawing attention in media to this, to the audience who didn't even know anything about it. Yeah, we're suing Pirate Bay, and this is all over the news. This is all anybody's talking about, and people are like, "What's Pirate Bay?" Oh, you can go get movies and music and software for free. And then let's say this goes on for 2 or 3 years, just free marketing for Pirate Bay. And then a couple other sites start appearing. They go, well, this is for our support of Pirate Bay. We've created this other site, and these other people do it. Now you've got 4 sites to replace the one that they're struggling and spending millions of dollars in court fees and time trying to take it down. It always makes it worse. And it works the same for you and I. When you try and shut something down, there will be an opportunity to another ambitious person that wants to take advantage by finding a way around it. And around the wheel goes. So I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what you should do. But I'm telling you why I personally don't get involved with it, because all of it's a waste of time. You will do that till the day you die. And for everything you accomplish, it'll be undone in a way you didn't expect. So, you know, if you're an advocate and that's your job, what a great job. I love that, by the way. If your job is to protect consumers and you get paid to take companies to court and you've made a career out of that, that's awesome. But if it's costing you your time and your money because you're doing it on behalf of society, well, you probably aren't going to have much money for very long. But, you know, again, I think it's great. I don't have the luxury to be Mr. Justice. It's not my job. I can't afford it. And we'll always find ways to work around it. All right, let me look through the chat and say hello to everybody. And again, if you do have any computer problems today, put that there in the chat. We'll see if we can help you or maybe point you in a direction to your solution. Sometimes there's YouTube videos or web links we can just share with you. Also, we have an amazingly tech-savvy group of community members here. So you'll often see some suggestions from our community when you ask your question, and I would not ignore those. Quite often their answers are better and even better understood than mine. Sometimes I misunderstand somebody's question, and I tend to do that more than most people for some reason. My brain just works a little differently, and I'll look at the chat room comments and see they're answering the question in a completely different way. And then I realize, oh, well, maybe they meant this instead of the way I thought it meant. So our thank you to the community, because they're looking out for you just like I am. And many of them have many years of experience in the industry. We have other computer techs here, and we have some pretty extreme tech enthusiasts who could very easily be in IT. So again, when you ask a question, don't dismiss the answers coming from our community. If you're watching live, we'd love to see you in our live chat room. That's what makes my YouTube channel different. They're not 90-second videos, and they're not intended to be commercials. We're here to support community, to build friendships. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what your level of technical knowledge is. It doesn't matter your gender or your religion, your age. None of that matters. We just want you to be a nice person. So if you feel like, hey, I'm a nice person, why don't you join the rest of the nice people here in our chat room and say hello? Well, we're live. It just starts with a hello. Even if you're not social, it's very easy to type 5 letters and watch what happens next. Isaiah says hello. There's Jonathan Fells and Mark Baggett, Sean Skinner and Eddie Casanova. David Graham joins us. Lou Greenia and our friend Mark Gaines, 3D Everything, Ben Laird. Ben also joins us from Scotland. As I mentioned, Mark Gaines is in Northern Ireland. Lou Greenia is in Vermont saying hello. I also see, of course, Mara, our channel administrator, saying hello. There's Buster joining us from Edinburgh, Scotland, where the temperature right now 35 degrees Fahrenheit or 1.6 degrees Celsius. Ooh, that sounds a little chilly, Buster. Andy W6AD says hello. There's Edward Bass and Paul 1961, Thomas MacT and Brian Weber. Mark Leibowitz says, I just used the Carey coupon code to buy Microsoft Office Pro Plus. Let me try that one again. I just used the Carey coupon code to buy Microsoft Office Pro Plus 2019 for a client yesterday. Yeah, it just works, right? You just follow the steps. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. Jim Kenny says hello. Ophelia saying hello, as well as Did I mention Thomas MacT? Matthew Burden? W.E. Holmes? Bill Stodd? Frank Jimmy joining us. Dazzle555 says hello. Frank Jimmy said, I had a relative whose doctor recommended they walk around the block once a day. The relative said they tried but couldn't finish. The doctor said to go halfway and turn around and go home. Okay. Yeah, it's two halves that make a whole, right? There's Dustin Fuller saying hello. Let's see who else we have in here. Almost to the bottom of the chat. Brian Weber said, I am happy with my new Minisforum M1 Pro 125H. No issues at all. Yeah, I would expect nothing less. Again, usually the only people we hear from or you'll read about online are people that have a problem. And we don't know if it's the people or the device, but that's why we do everything live here, so we can't control what you see. If we get a bad product, you know, fresh out of the box, doesn't work, or there's a problem, we can't hide that from you. And when have you ever seen that happen with all the Minisforum, all the different variations of Minisforum, mini PCs, or pretty much anyone? We did a couple of weeks ago, maybe it's been a month or two now, have that one PC, that mini PC that had like a loose part inside of it, which it didn't appear to have fallen out of anything. It was almost like some part fell in at the factory. How that got through quality control, I don't know. But that's once out of forever. We've never seen that before. So what were the odds that we got it, you know? And by the way, as long as we remove the part to make sure there's no shorting happening, no electrical short, machine works just fine. I mean, we could have sent it back. We didn't have to open it up and figure out what was rattling around. With Amazon, if you order from Amazon, 30-day free returns. Just send it in for an exchange, not a big deal. Or if you lost confidence in the product, you just want every single penny of your money back. Once again, 30 days on Amazon, no questions asked. How upset could you possibly be about getting your money back? Ophelia says, as far as smartphones are concerned, I think after 3-ish years, something would need repair. I'd be better off just getting whatever's current at the time. So it's hard to say. 3 years seems like probably a normal time, but I think phones can go a good 6 years. You know, if you take care of it, of course your battery life will be severely diminished. I think if you go beyond 6 years with a phone, you're basically saying, I don't care if my identity gets stolen. You're just inviting thieves to steal from you. Thieves in other countries that hate the country you live in, they hate you. And they celebrate anything they can take from you. And the way that they do it, or let me just say, from reading the articles online and seeing what's published on their side of things, when it comes to America, they say Americans are so fat and they're so stupid. Look how easy it is to steal their entire life savings. That they, being so fat and so stupid, they never should have had it to begin with. If this is, they celebrate it. They go, look at how stupid Americans are. Look how easy it was for me to steal this person's entire life savings. And if they're that stupid, they don't know how to hold on to their money. That's not my problem. That's their problem for being stupid. Aren't we cool? So if you understand the way your enemy is thinking, they're not feeling sorry for you. They feel like the world is unjust, that they're good people that are suffering, and the people in other countries with the money who are fat and stupid, they don't deserve it. And their proof that they don't deserve it is simply by showing how easy it is to swindle, to scam them, that you believe anything. And it's hard to believe people that would believe anything like that could have this much money. The world is not just. So by us taking it, we're making it the world a more fair place. Okay, that is quite often the logic, especially with the Indian scammers. They feel like you deserve it. Now, if you're too cheap to buy a new phone after 6 years and you still use it on the internet, it's not just a phone for you, but you're using it for financial transactions, to pay bills, you can understand that those hackers, they love you. You are the prime example. They don't have a real job. Whatever that phone is going to cost you to replace, it's going to be a lot cheaper than trying to get your identity back. And a lot of times when money is transferred, you'll never get it back. And that money will often be multiples of what a new phone costs. Besides which, treat yourself to a new phone every once in a while. You know, you deserve it. You're not going to live forever. What do you have the money for? Enjoy it. Not that much to buy a new phone every few years. Unless you never use it, in which case, just don't buy a phone. Be without it. Pick a lane. Don't get a smartphone. Get a flip phone. You know, if all you want is a phone, that's a lot more secure. You can still be scammed with phone calls and text messages, but with a smartphone, you got to make sure it stays updated. And even Android and iOS will say, once you reach a certain age, once the phone does, you're not going to get any more updates. So it becomes a vintage device that's no longer supported. And if you're foolish enough to keep using it online, good luck to you. Say goodbye to your money and your identity. It's just a matter of time. Hasn't happened yet. Oh, give it time. So it's really in the best interest of folks to, at least every 6 years, replace your phone. And I'd say most people do it probably every 3 years, probably just because they want the latest and greatest thing, assuming you can afford that upgrade pattern. The biggest issue is people don't like change. You know, they say, oh, this one's different than my last one. Yeah, and it'll take all of 2 weeks of your life to get used to it, and you won't think about it anymore. But that's such an inconvenience and such a burden for people, they'd rather just someone stole all their money and identity rather than go through the suffering of 2 weeks of learning something new. They're comfortable. It's lazy, and it's mentally not good for your brain to encourage it to stop thinking. That will probably, although there's no scientific study that I'm aware of, it probably leads to things like Alzheimer's and dementia when you stop exercising your brain and you just leave everything the way it is for too long. The resistance to change is an age-related disease. And I only say that because kids love change. You give a kid a new phone, you are their favorite person. But you do that to an adult and they're angry. So when does that change happen to human beings? And I'm saying in general, we always have exceptions, right? But in general, kids love the new stuff. And in general, adults hate change. Just, I liked it the way it was kind of a thing. I just want to stop growing and stop experiencing life, and you can just go ahead and prep my grave because I'm done. Why? Is it that bad, really? All right, where do you learn how to get your identity back? You want to learn some change there? What do you learn how to talk to the banks and the attorneys to try and figure out how you're going to get your money back, if it's even possible, and how the court system works and how the FBI works? Oh, there's a whole lot of learning coming up, and it won't be 2 weeks, it'll be 2 to 4 years. But, you know, each their own, man. Let's see, scrolling back through the chat. So again, with all the people complaining online about how terrible Windows is, and all the people complaining online about
all the problems they're having, where are those people? Maybe because those people aren't here, they remain ignorant. And maybe we're not seeing any of our community reporting any problems because you've educated yourselves or you've asked for help here and we've been able to help you. So instead of looking for someone to point the problem at, you were looking for a solution and you got what you're looking for. I want you to keep that in mind in the future as you go forward looking through social media sites, and as places like PC World and Tom's Hardware and hothardware.com are now becoming more like TMZ, where they want to publish gossip. It's probably not affecting you. I mean, the first question I would ask is there any companies, any big corporations complaining about this Windows update or, you know, whatever they're complaining about that's supposedly a big issue? Just search for it. Any big companies having this problem? Nope. So only the home users on social media. Like, do I know anybody in person that has it? Nope. Do I have this problem? Nope. Do I have any clue what they're talking about? I guess what they're saying is true to them, but who else is it true for? Then you got to wonder, maybe they're the source of their own problems. And maybe they're not. But until we actually see or experience the problem for ourselves, or we have evidence that large companies, like the CrowdStrike bad update that took down a lot of large corporations, you know, all Delta airline flights were canceled. You know, that's on the news. You can't avoid hearing that. That's real. It's not, you know, one guy running some obscure piece of software and now he's pissed off he can't pull up Counter-Strike or something. This is the real world, and it runs on business. And when businesses are affected through an update from Microsoft, you're going to hear about it. And yeah, it'll affect you too. But if it's not affecting you and it doesn't affect anybody you know, I wouldn't worry myself over it personally. I wouldn't even get involved unless they're specifically asking for some help. A lot of times what you're reading about people complaining, they're not asking for help. They're not saying, hey, can anybody help me fix this? What you will often see is they're just insulting and degrading and even slanderous or libelous towards a company. And when you see that, where they have come to conclusions, this is broken and this is their fault, there's no evidence to that. They just decided that on their own. They have bestowed judge, jury, and executioner upon themselves, and they're going to tell you exactly what they think. And that's freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is freedom to lie. And that's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear what they're doing wrong, or they would have asked. That is a key component to fear mongering and drumming up discontent within the community, is by making statements that are only true from the eyes of the person making them, that are unrelatable to other people. Sometimes other people jump on the bandwagon because they think it's funny. Oh, that happened to me too. And it'll only happen on a certain community. You won't find it on any other community. So you've got to watch out for these signs of misinformation. And I'd say probably 8 out of 10 things you read online are they're just wrong. They're either opinions or lack of knowledge, where they're angry at something that's really their own fault, and they're so lacking knowledge it doesn't even occur to them that they're the source of the problem, and the fix starts with them. It was a Michael Jackson song, is you gotta be the change you want to see in the world. You can't sit there and complain about how terrible the world is. Look at the man in the mirror and start there and be the change you want to see. We need more of that attitude in social media. I don't think we're ever going to get there, but you can see the signs, you can see the red flags if you know what to look for. Somebody who's genuinely having a real concern, a problem, should be asking for help, not coming to any conclusions. If they're coming to conclusions, they have an agenda. If they're asking for help, they're having a problem that they would like to learn how to resolve. I find a noble, respectable quality in people who ask for help. But the people who refuse help and instead, you know, they want to blame the weather for their inability to be flexible and to work around the weather, it's the weather's fault.
And so we can all hate the weather. And you know what difference that makes to the weather? Weather doesn't care. All right, so just want you to just keep that in mind. It's continuing to get worse and worse. And then when people start using AI, and they already have, to start producing stories to generate clicks, the same red flags will be there universally. And the first thing you got to ask yourself is this happening to me or anybody I know? And, you know, I'll tell you, with all the customers I have, if there's a bad update, my phone's going to ring a lot. So has my phone been ringing? Nope. And sometimes we get a bad update that affects one customer. Some customers got something different, but it affects all of the customers' computers, not just one, right? And I'll share those stories with you. I don't keep that stuff secret, and it's very rare. It happens, but it doesn't happen with the frequency people online would have you believe. And so long as there's a profit to be made by getting your click, there's incentive to continue to lie. Or exaggerate. Andy Winbridge says hello from the Netherlands. David Graham said he developed a sync error in Edge because I synced across 4 computers. It all went down at the same time. Yeah. Andy W6AD is agreeing that Minisform makes good stuff. He says he's running a Aberzy XG1. Aberzy is made by Minisform, as is Adam Man. Yeah. Phil Stodd said, my company decided to change payroll providers from a very big company to a cheaper company, and now I get advertisements in my company email. You can thank HR for that, huh? As long as the check clears, I suppose. Bengali Antics said, Carey, I have a Dell laptop. It's a Latitude 5330. It has a smart card slot. What can I use this for? Well, I don't know what you mean by a smart card slot, but I'm assuming maybe you have a micro SD or SD card slot. Let me see, what is a Latitude 5330? I mean, normally, if you have to ask me what to use it for, you don't need it. That's an oversimplified answer, but if somebody gives you a car and you don't go anywhere, you're like, can you give me some examples of how I might use my car? Yeah, probably just sell the car or just don't use it. Looking for an excuse to use something simply because it exists isn't really problem solving. But I'm just pulling up some images of like any 5330 Dell because I don't know what year yours is or how old it is. But content creators, just in general, like to have the ability to take the media that they've been filming and move it over to the computer for editing or publishing. Now, as phones, we call them phones, but this really is not a phone. This is a small computer with a phone app on it. The phone part of this is an app. This isn't really a phone. This is more like a Bluetooth speaker, built into a small laptop than it is. It's got more in common with that than it does with a telephone. But the telephone part of this, even though it's given its name and its title as being a smartphone, is one of the many features. This is also a GPS. It's a camera. It's a film camera. It's an MP3 player. It's a game machine. It's whatever you want it to be, but also makes phone calls, by the way. So it does kind of amuse me that we call these smartphones when very few people ever use them as phones anymore. But that may be me being old. I just find it amusing that we're calling something by a feature, not by its main use. Anyway, before these, because now I can take a video on this. I can shoot with this. I don't even need a camera. I can put this on a selfie stick, take it with me, do travel videos. I can edit right on this, and I can publish right from here, right up to the internet.
But before those days, you know, we don't have to go back that far, where bandwidth was expensive and the cameras weren't very good, and the software that you could do video editing was pretty rough because the processing power wasn't there. We just take the memory card out. This one has a memory card reader in it too, and you pop that in there and copy your video files off. Once they're on the main computer that has all the power, then you can go ahead and do your editing and publishing. That's pretty much all it's for. People that like photography and they have the old-fashioned digital SLR cameras, they'll take hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of photos, come back and unload that memory card onto the computer for editing on a big screen with things like Photoshop and you know, heavy video editing software. And you know, then they need a place to store those files, which is usually some kind of a NAS or a very large external drive. So that would be an example of how one might use that. But these days, it's just less and less common, simply because we have an abundance of processing power, RAM, and storage. Even with the quote-unquote shortages, it's still far, far more than we ever had in the past, and continues to grow. Now, even though we're in a bit of a lull, where in some cases things have gotten a little bit smaller in capacities, the performance continues to grow regardless of our processors. The performance of our processors continue to go regardless of how much storage and RAM we have. And certain things like, well, like these phones, for example, they were designed for internet usage. And as a result, the way that Android or even iOS works is very different from an operating system. This is a relatively simple operating system. And it's all most people need if you're a consumer, if you're consuming things. Apple recently released their new, I don't know, their little budget laptop, which is essentially an iPhone 16. I think it's funny, but it's essentially the same processor, I think, as an iPhone 16, but put into a laptop. So in other words, what if we took a keyboard and a mouse and a screen and gutted it and just put a phone inside of it and hooked it all up, made it, you know, instead of this small, we'll make it this big, and then we'll only charge $600 for it. That's going the opposite way. It's like don't look at the man behind the curtain kind of a thing. I think it's pathetic and it's sad that basically Apple's got their own little Chromebook, is what it were. I mean, it's more than that, but at the same time, it's a phone. It's a phone with a keyboard, a mouse, and a screen. Everything that laptop can do, the phone can do from a couple of years ago. It's not even the latest phone. And that's marketing at work for you folks. If we just change this package, we can repackage it to look like a laptop. And now the irony is the number of people that have that phone who say, oh, I'd really like this laptop too. We basically just bought two phones. Well. In the meantime, it just goes to prove how much power is in these phones that you can trick people like that. You can say, hey, this laptop actually performs quite well under these tasks. But yeah, it's not a laptop, it's a phone. Yeah, they're more and more capable today than they've ever been, negating the need for something like this, which also negates the need for the SD card since the memory is all built into the phone. So yeah, if you have to ask what you need it for, you probably don't need it. If it helps, get a little piece of black electrical tape and cover it up so you don't have to look at it. Forget it's there. Sometimes they'll still sell computers and laptops and memory card readers, but we're seeing them less and less. But I appreciate the question. Xander Vanderhoven joins us from the Netherlands. There's Jose Lopez saying hello. Paul 1961 joins us from Winnipeg, Canada. Welcome in, Paul. There's John Williams saying hello, along with Marsman50. And a $1 super chat from our friend Jose Lopez. Thank you, Jose. LRCX joining us from Northern California. There's our friend Rick Lakes out there in Minnesota saying hello. Gregory said he's been in computers for 50 years. The first time I don't know what is next with prices and future. Yeah, well, you think about what computers were out 50 years ago. So 50 years ago would put us to 1976. And I don't even think there was such a thing as a home computer in 1976. So I don't know what kind of computer you were working on. The first home computer was the Altair. And that was introduced 74. So it only been 2 years. And that it doesn't represent a computer today the way we use computers, the Altair. And then things grew very, very quickly from that to, say, things like the Commodore PET and the Apple computer and Timex Sinclair, Texas Instruments, TRS-80. All of that was happening in the 70s and the 80s, and it was all very, very expensive and really just for nerds. When we get to the real home computer, nothing really happened until around the early 1980s when IBM introduced their home computer. And that really didn't start to take off until the invention of VisiCalc. VisiCalc came out, what year was that? 79. And it was launched for the Apple II computer. But because of that, Dan Bricklin and Bob Frankston, the guys who created VisiCalc, people that were into accounting, CPAs and people like that, they needed a computer for their job. They had to have it. It made everything so much faster, so much easier. If you changed a number on one row or column, you didn't have to recalculate everything by hand. It happened instantaneously. This was a game changer. So shortly thereafter, when the IBM PC came out, that's when things started to ramp up. And then things didn't start ramping up again until the mid-90s, when the home consumer could then access the internet through a dial-up modem or things like AOL, CompuServe, stuff like that. And that's really when things took off. But like anything else, it eventually faded out and got replaced with this device here, which you don't have to have, sitting on a desk. You can take it with you wherever you go. And you can use this now for pretty much everything you use a computer for if you're a home user. If I want to check the status of my garage door opener, if I want to control my thermostat, if I want to check my security cameras, if I want to play music, if I need a GPS, if I need a camera or a video camera, if I need to make a phone call or send a text. I mean, it's whatever you can imagine this can do. You no longer have to buy all these separate devices. This is my Garmin GPS. I have to update it once a year. This is my MP3 player. Oh, I forgot I left this one here. I left that over there. It's incredible how everything is converged into one device. When they started doing this initially, the devices were pretty early on in processing power, so they really could only do one task very well. But now with the advent of more and more processing power, you can now replace this or basically stick it into a laptop case and tell people it's a laptop and they'll believe it. That's how crazy this world is becoming. So, but yeah, 50 years ago, you couldn't have imagined the internet. You couldn't have imagined Wi-Fi. You couldn't have imagined USB. Like 50 years ago, again, even if you were working in large corporations where they had large servers that took up entire rooms, it's nothing like what we have today. It has changed a lot in those 50 years, for sure. Bill Stodd said he's been using the Asus BT10 Wi-Fi 7 mesh system for over 18 months and it's still working like a champ. I think Lou Greeny has the same one, doesn't he? We did have problems. I think it was the BT10. But it looks like a firmware update resolved the problems. That's what happens when you get products too early. But I'm glad to hear that it's working well for you guys. I'd like to see more of that posted on social media. Hey, I really like this thing I bought. Works well, instead of just the complaining. I don't know how to use this right, so therefore it's a piece of junk. It's nothing to do with me learning how to use it. I bought a piano and it sounds terrible. What have you tried playing? I don't know. I don't know how to play the piano. Well, that's worth boasting to the world, huh? Mats Olof joins us from Sweden. Welcome in, Mats Olof. Paul says his very first computer was a 286. Yeah, that would have put you probably around 1989. Andy said he had a Timex Sinclair 1000 in early 1983. You could build that yourself for $99, or you could buy it pre-assembled for $149 when it was catalog only, back before they started selling them at Kmart. Phil Stott said he bought the BT10 the night we debuted it here on this channel, and he's never looked back. Right on. David Graham said he just watched the documentary on VisiCalc. Oh, yeah, YouTube's great for finding these documentaries. Some great and very interesting histories that aren't very well known anymore. We're not going back that far, 40, 50 years. And it's amazing just how far this has come and what it started as. A lot of times what it ended up being isn't what the creators even imagined. It just kind of went with the flow and the culture, and it became and evolved in a very natural and not forced way. Mark Leibowitz said, Ask Leo just did a video about this. I don't know what this is. Ask Leo is a great channel. Leo, what's his name? Leo Notenboom. Notenboom. Leo Notenboom. And he was messing around with punch cards back in 1976. Talk about being around 50 years. He spent 18 years at Microsoft. And since 2003, he's been using that experience and his love of technology to answer tech questions over at Ask Leo. It's a very long time he's been doing this. If you see his face, you probably recognize him. He does these short videos. He just does one question, one answer. That's the subject of the video. And I suppose that's a really smart way to do it, because if you're answering 10 questions in one video and somebody only cares about one of those 10, how do they find it? So by segmenting them all into their own individual videos, it gets people sort of a table of contents, if you will, like a not a glossary, but a faster way to get to your answer. But it also means that it's not a classroom. Can you imagine going to class? You sit down in the classroom and the teacher says, today we're going to answer one question, and then your class is over in 8 minutes and everybody can go home until tomorrow. It's a very slow way to learn. I would argue that it's not an ideal way to learn. It's an ideal way to solve your own problem if you want to learn nothing. And I don't like, personally, for the most part, just getting an answer. I like the whole background on why is it this way? Why does it work like that? Because if I'm having a problem with it, isn't that poorly designed? Well, no, because this, or yes, and they're working on it. Like, I like all of it, me personally. I don't want to just follow some drill sergeant's instructions I need to know why. A lot of times when people will ask me a question, I feel like they're setting me up. And the best way I can explain this would be somebody will say, how could I test my power supply? So the way that my brain works, if there's a brain in there, is the first thing I want to know is, why do you want to know this? Right? What's going on that would lead you to that question? Well, my computer's randomly restarting. That's where we needed to start. See that going down that was bait. That's just there to take up my time. I don't think they're doing it on purpose, but they're not really thinking this through. For some reason, they have decided that they want to check their power supply. And I don't know why they decided that. For most people, they'll just answer their question. But that isn't really, in most cases, the answer they're looking for, and has nothing to do with the reason why they're asking. So what I want to do is cut to the chase. Let's not play games. Why are you asking me that question? Well, my computer's randomly shutting down. Okay, great. Now we're getting somewhere. And is this a brand new computer, or is this a computer you've had for a while? Oh no, I've had it a while. Also, very good information. So it's been working for you for some time? Yeah. When was the last time that it was working? 2 days ago. Okay, so your question, when you asked me, how do I test my power supply? What you really meant to ask me was, I have a computer that's been running great up until 2 days ago when it starts to randomly restart or shut down. What can I do? What can you recommend I do to figure out what's causing it? That is a completely different question, and I may not have anything to suggest about a power supply. I don't know why they went off on that tangent, but it was a complete waste of everybody's time if they would just ask me. They don't have to do 50% of my job and conclude it's their power supply. No one asked you to do that, and all you're doing is you're trapping yourself into making this take longer and be more painful and wasting your time, and then you're trapping the technician or the person you're asking into following you on this journey to nowhere because you think it's going somewhere and it's potentially in the complete wrong direction because you didn't expose where it is you were trying to go. Like, what was your destination? Oh. So when a customer calls me and says, I need service, right? If I don't know this customer, there are standard questions I need to know that you should know when you ask. Is this a brand new problem? When did it start? When was the last time it worked? Is this a desktop or a laptop? Did you build it yourself? How old is it? Is it running Windows 10, Windows 11? What operating system? Have you made any changes to it that you can recall? Did you move it to another location? Have you added a new piece of software? Have you added a new printer? Anything changed from the time that it was last working a couple days ago to today that you can think of? What's interesting is even when asked that question, there are a percentage of people that immediately default to nothing's changed. Somebody says, you know, my internet was working, and this is all true stories, by the way. My internet was working. What could cause my, internet to not work? What's wrong with my computer? Is it my network card driver? Like, well, is the internet only not working on one computer and working on other? No, it's not working anywhere. Like, the TV won't connect. When was the last time your TV connected to the internet? About 3 days ago. Okay, so in the last 3 days, has anything changed? No. Okay, so nothing's changed. You've left everything alone. Yeah, just woke up one day and just internet's down. Have you tried unplugging the modem and the router, plugging it back in? Yeah, didn't work. And we've restarted everything and restarted the TV, and oh yeah, we did all that. See, it's an impossible problem, Carey. You can't solve it. They're not saying that part, but those are the words. So I'm like, well, the problem as you describe it, it doesn't really make any sense. Are there lights on the modem? Yeah, there's one. Okay, does your modem normally have one light? Or normally there'd be multiple lights. Oh, I don't know. I don't pay attention to it. What do the lights say? Maybe take a picture of it and send it to me so I can see. Look on my phone. Now I can see, you know, what they're describing over the phone. Your internet light's not on. That would imply to me that you did not, the cable connection that goes into the modem isn't all the way in. What would cause that to come out? I go, really, I don't care. All you need to do is just take the modem, and if it's plugged in or appears to be, unplug it. Don't just push in on the cables. Take it out. Wait a second. Now put it back in. Plug it. You know, screw the connector back on. And he says, "Oh, the cable's really tight since my wife rearranged the furniture." When did your wife rearrange the furniture? About 3 days ago. So do you remember the part when I asked you, did anything change in the last 3 days? And do you remember you said no? I completely forgot my wife rearranged the furniture. So your modem is not in the same place it was? No, she moved it to the other side of the room. And she just like attached an extension cable to it? Yep. Yeah, I think you might be extending that cable too far. Go put the modem back where it was, remove the extension cable, then plug it back in. You're a genius. I don't know how you know so much. I don't know. And it's praise for just what is, to me, very simple, basic logic. And the person had the answer the whole time. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to pull it out of them like some kind of magician, some kind of Jedi. You know the answer, and you're going to tell me the answer. I don't know the answer. It's not possible to fix it. Let's walk through this together. And you extract, by asking the right questions, they provide the answer to you, the answer they knew the whole time. That is the majority of tech support in my line of work. A lot of times when people say, I don't know how to answer your questions, that's fine. What that tells me is you want to pay me to drive out to your location and work on it on site. That's how I make a living. I'm happy to do that. If you'd like to save a little money and save a little time, we can work on it over the phone. And some people are just, nope, I don't want to touch it. I'm afraid of it. It's intimidating to me. It's threatening to me. Hey, I would love nothing more than to bill you. Let me put you on my schedule. I'll come out and I'll take a look at it. And even when I'm out there looking at it, I still may have some questions. Okay, but they'll be basic questions, not technical. You know, how long have you been having this problem? When did it start? Those aren't technical questions. Help me out here. But at least I can see with my own eyes what they're not volunteering in when they're asking for help. It'd be like saying, hey doctor, why am I getting so woozy? And there's red stuff gushing out of me. Well, did you hurt yourself? Well, I was just using a bandsaw and cut my fingers off. Maybe we should have started there. You know, time is ticking. What do I know? I'm trying to help people, but sometimes people make it very difficult by jumping ahead to what they think the conclusion is before they've even told me why they think that's a solution when they've never even told me what the problem is. How do I test this power supply? I got to know why you're asking, because it may have nothing to do with your power supply. How do I get this network card working? Well, what was wrong with the network card? Well, my internet was slow. Well, that's got nothing to do with your network card in most cases. Why would you? Yeah, I went to the store and they told me at the store to buy a new network card. Now I can't get this to work. Now it doesn't work at all. So you went from the network being slow to getting in the car or going to the store or talking to somebody that works behind the counter who's not a technician, took their advice, bought their thing, brought it home, and instead of calling them, you're calling me now for the very first time about this particular issue, and you want to know how I can make this network card work. Well, my advice is take the network card out, put it back in the box, go return it to the store and get your money back. Let's start there. Once you've done that, or at the very least, let's go ahead and remove the card and we'll continue the diagnostic and we'll fix it the right way. And then you can go take the card back later if you want. But compounding a problem by making it worse, the first thing I need to do is just cut that fat off of there, get it off the plate, and say, let's focus on what matters here, and we'll get to the job and the solution much, much faster. People usually want it fixed fast, and they often want it fixed cheap. So why would you spend money you didn't need to spend and spend time you didn't need to spend because you didn't want to spend the time and the money to do it right the first time? Well, let's just make it worse. I don't get it. Now, if you're into it for the education, then part of that education is you search for your own answers online. You say, I want to learn this. Nobody's stopping you. You have the same thing I have. You don't have my experience, but I've shared a lot of my experience online, as have millions of others. There's got to be somebody else out there suffering the same problem. Your job, if you decided you want to fix it yourself, is to then pursue your own education, try things that don't work until you find one that does. And when you've exhausted yourself without a solution, you give up and then you call me, and now you just made it take more time to fix. Or you found the solution, you know, maybe somebody provides an answer to a question that applies to you, but you don't understand why it works. So you haven't really learned anything, but you did it yourself, which is a great sort of pat on the back. Good for you. That's good. And maybe that will encourage you to continue that pattern and to enrich yourself with knowledge and experience to the point where now people are asking you to fix their computers for them. And if you enjoy that, I love it. But to dismiss somebody's decades of experience like, oh, I could do that myself, it may be a little bit of oversimplification happening with, you know, the amount of time that goes into any skill. I always like to use the piano playing experience. You can learn how to play a song on a piano. You may not know what the keys mean, the black keys or the white keys. You just watch a video that shows the keys light up in a certain order, and you repeat that, and it can appear that you know how to play the piano when you don't. Now, you don't necessarily have to know music to read music. What I mean to say is, you can play piano by ear, and if someone can give you sheet music and you can't read it, heads or tails, it doesn't mean you don't know how to play piano. Just like you could speak English, but you don't know how to write it out. You know, you're still communicating as long as you're communicating well. Somebody that is going to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice will eventually get better at that thing they do, whether it's sports or playing an instrument or working on a computer, fixing problems. The more you do it, the more time you invest, the more you'll learn in the process. But if all you want to do is look for quick answers to questions, well, the internet's got that too. If you just say, look, I just want to know how to solve this, I don't care why. That's fine. And so I would say what I like about Leo, that we are just talking about Ask Leo, is he doesn't necessarily give you the why. He just says, if you have this problem, here's how you fix it. And if you like that kind of content, there's probably a handful of people that are that good, because he knows what he's talking about. It's coming from a place of experience in the industry. But for me personally, I want to know why. It's got to make sense to me. And that's why these videos, when I'm demonstrating how-tos and things, I get into the weeds with it, because I want you to know why. My attitude is, I'm going to teach you why, whether you like it or not, because it's going to make you a better, I don't want to say technician, but you'll be more self-reliant with technology if you'll listen to the why. And if you refuse, you'll just tune me out or turn it off. And, you know, it won't be for my lack of trying. I did my part. That's all I'm trying to say. Yeah, Mark Leibowitz got it there. Leo Nottenbu. Mark Leibowitz said he recently did a video about running from fearing, hating technology changes. Again, that's just a disease with age. Only old people feel that. That's nothing young people feel. Young people overall love and embrace change. They're excited about it. They love it. Something new, you know. Something to keep in mind, if you want to be that way, it's a choice. If you say, I don't like change, and I'm happy not liking change, don't change, right? That kind of fits the mold that checks out. But if you say, I don't like change and I don't know why, I wasn't always this way. When I was younger, I never seemed to have this problem. Well, once you're self-aware of what you're doing, you can be self-aware of making an effort to change what you don't like. And if you don't like change, it starts with changing you. It's a bad habit that gets picked up because it's too inconvenient, it's too inefficient, and it can be frustrating to learn something. But once you know it, totally worth it. I've never met anybody in my life that said, I wish I didn't know so much. I just learned too much and I wish I didn't learn all of it. I've never heard those words come out of anybody's mouth in my whole life. Phil Stott had some recommendations for other YouTube channels that do education type videos from people who know what they're talking about, people in the industry. Ask Leo is one. Mike's Unboxing, who frequently is here in our chat room. He did a really good video the other day, Mike's Unboxing, Reviews and How-To. Had a very old neglected NAS that looked like it pulled it out of a forest with moss. And it's his old NAS, and he just, you know, again, things are slow for everybody. So he's like, what can I do? Oh, let's take this NAS that's, you know, got a forest growing out of it now because it's been just collecting dust like crazy, and let's open it up and clean it out. And yeah, it's a great video. I enjoyed it. He, for some reason, felt the need to label the drive drawers, and it's not important. And his excuse for that was, sometimes I forget which way the drives go in, which way's down. Well, they only go in one way. So it's like trying to label a USB plug because, oh, I might have to turn it around the other way. So what? And then he said, you know, he labels drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, drive 4. But the NAS RAID arrays don't care. If you take the drive 1 and drive 2 and drive 3 and drive 4 and you shuffle them like a deck of cards, and then you put them all back into random slots, the RAID will still boot up. It doesn't care. And it says, well, the other thing is, like, if I have a problem with drive 2, which one is drive 2? Does it go from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4? Or does it go from right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4? So I find that by labeling them, this is Mike's Unboxing, it makes it easier to identify the bad drive. And it's like, well, there's on the NAS he had, there's going to be a row of lights, 1, 2, 3, 4. The light that's red will be the bad drive, the problem drive. And instead of focusing on the drawers, he needs to focus on the slot. And apparently he has never ever noticed in all the years, this, I'm not making fun of anybody, I'm saying it happens to us all. In all the years he's had this NAS, he has never seen that the slots are numbered. He's just never noticed it. So he decides he's going to take like a silver Sharpie and write a little dot on slot 1 and a dot on slot 2. But if you freeze frame Mike's video, the number 1 is already embossed in the plastic right below where he's putting the dot. I'd understand if he wants to make that little embossed number like white or silver, but no, he went right over it, never saw it. Now, Synology could have done a much better job at making that more prominent. But this is what happens when you don't ask questions. When you falsely conclude that it's important to label these drives for all the reasons he gave, none of those reasons apply. They only apply to what Mike's preferences are. But I would say they are not labeled because they don't need to be labeled. The drives themselves are completely unnecessary. And if you just pay attention and slow down a minute and look at the device, there are small embossed numbers. I'll bet you. And again, I'm not making fun of the guy. I love Mike. I think he's a great guy. Mike's unboxing reviews and how-tos. He's one of the good ones. But nobody's perfect. So I'm watching it and I'm just going, well, it's a good video. I really like what he did there. But the logic that he had didn't make any sense to me because he was unaware of the embossed numbers. So if we look at Mike's unboxing, and let me pull his video up here. And I hope he doesn't get mad at me about this. I'm not making fun of him or anything. I'm just trying to say a little bit of research before doing the video, or a little more research in the years that he's had the NAS. For years, he's been under this assumption and never questioned himself about it. So let me jump over to Mike's unboxing here. Let's jump into his video. Think that'll work? Yeah. So very old. You know, he's had this a long time. And if you look very closely, let's see if we can go full screen here. When he cleans this out, and it's a long video, it's very thorough, and he starts getting to the point of explaining the logic of the little dots he's putting on and the labels. See how he's got, you know, drive 1, drive 2, drive 3. You don't need to do that. 1 doesn't need to go into 1. It doesn't matter where it goes. You can do that. It's not hurting anybody, but it's sort of like, you know, when I take a step on a sidewalk, I don't like to step on a crack. It doesn't affect anything in the world if you step on a crack. That's more of a superstition. But if we come around to the front somewhere, maybe this video, maybe this part here, right down at the bottom, it says number 1. Can you see the number 1 all the way at the bottom of the screen? Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. It is right above my mouse cursor, which I'm assuming is showing up on your screen. And that can be difficult to see, but it's always been there. You might be able to see it. So depending on the angle, and every NAS going back as far as I can remember, it's always had this identifier on the slot. The only time I've ever seen anybody number the drawers was Ugreen, and I've made fun of it because it's so stupid. I also noticed that NAS Compares, when he reviews the Ugreen, he often doesn't have 1, 2, 3, 4. He'll have 4, 2, 1, 3. And it's bothering my OCD to see it, but it works perfectly regardless of the numbering. Can you imagine having to call somebody, having to call support and say, I broke my number 3 drive tray? It's the same as all the other drive trays. There's nothing different about it. Well, but this one has the number 3 on it. So the people at Ugreen have to specifically make extra inventory with different numbers. God forbid they sent you a drive tray that was missing the number or had the same number as another one. It's psychological. It has no impact on the system. And they just added more confusion to end users who don't know any better. They added more cost to the manufacturing of the device. And they've added more support problems. If somebody has a problem, you can't just send them another tray. You have to know which number. Now, it's possible maybe they have blank trays and they put the number on it before they ship it, but it certainly looks like it's happening at the factory. So it's completely pointless, unnecessary. Now look, if somebody says, regardless of all of that, I would prefer to have something like my little dots that just works for you. You're not breaking any rules, right? But when you do it that way and you're teaching people, you're teaching them how to do something that they don't have to do. You're saying, this is my personal preference, and nowhere in the documentation does the manufacturer recommend this, nor has anybody ever said this is required for any reason. I've just decided above myself that I like this. You know, I've seen people that don't like the NAS being black, and first thing they do is they take it outside and they spray paint it the color they prefer. Why? Because they wanted to. Okay, I guess. Let me show you how you spray paint it. First, we take it out of the box, brand new, never even plugged it in, and let's get right to masking and taping and spray painting. Why? What does it have to do with the NAS? How does it function differently? It doesn't. I just like it the way it looks better. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but for full transparency, that is a personal preference. That's not a technological requirement. Everything you need came out of the box the way you need it. You did not need to fix it. That's all I'm trying to say. But, you know, I'm nitpicking here because it's not quite often that I can nitpick with Mike's unboxing. He does a very, very good job. And, well, sometimes we don't agree on things, which is good. It's pretty rare that I see him do something that I would say is totally unnecessary. It's more of an emotional need than it is a technological one. It's a personal preference that is unique for him, and that's okay. And I think it just needs to be made clear. Hey, by the way, I might say, for example, I realize I might be a little weird and I like to do this, but I'm not implying that everybody should do that or that it would benefit you at all. It's just that I'm just weird that way. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. It is a very, and I don't want to underestimate or undersell Mike's video. It's a very good video. It's very thorough, and there's a lot of great information in it. There's just a detail that he spends time on that, for me, is like, you know, it changes the technological aspect to a personal preference aspect. So that's all. Nothing wrong with that. But to separate that out and go, hey, look, it's just me. The rest of everything I told you is universally true. That this part here, this is just me being me. And it's okay for him to say, I have these preferences. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm afraid the way it was presented kind of implied that everybody else should do it too. I guess that's up to you, but I've never done that in my life. Never. Well, initially, when I got my very first NAS, I did number them because I didn't know better. I'll admit that. Phil Stott said, you need to remember that in the UK, they drive on the opposite side of the street. Almost every country. No, I take that back. There's a handful of countries that drive on the left side. Australia, England. I can't Google. Australia, India, Japan, South Africa, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Ireland, New Zealand, Singapore, and various Caribbean, or is it Caribbean, nations. So Europe in general, like England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, regular Ireland, regular Malta, Cyprus, the Isle of Man, Jersey, Guernsey. Yeah. In Asia, there's Japan, India, Thailand, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, Brunei, Hong Kong, Macau, and East Timor. Then there's South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Mozambique, Namibia, Uganda, Zambia, Lesotho, Mauritius, Malawi, I don't know how to say that country, Malawi, the Seychelles, and Eswatini in Swaziland. And it goes on, like the Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua and Barbuda. I don't even know what Barbuda is. Bermuda is different from Barbuda. I guess Antigua and Barbuda are close together. They're labeled together. Grenada, St. Kitts, and Nevis. I'm not sure how to say that one either. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Montserrat, Turks and Caicos, and Anguilla. I've been to Anguilla. That's the only one I've ever been to. And that's a British Isle as well. Little teeny tiny, like 3 miles long, one stoplight in the whole island. In the middle of nowhere. Not too far from just a boat ride away, like a 40-minute boat ride from St. Martin. Beautiful place. Nice and quiet. Hey, there's Mortant joining us saying hello, and there's Shamim Kajviris also joining us in the chat. Welcome in, everyone. I think when it comes to like whether something's right to left or left to right, it has more to do with how we read. So in the Arabic nations, Israel and places like this, you open a book the other way. Everything's backwards to us. So when something is numbered 1 through 4, it should pretty much be universal that in your language, if you start at the left and work your way to the right, whenever you're writing numbers or words, that's the way you should expect things to be numbered on hardware. If you live in a nation where it's the opposite, where you start on the right and work your way to the left, I imagine that their devices are made that way as well. But I don't know for a fact that if you bought a Synology in Israel or in Saudi Arabia, that it wouldn't be hooked up opposite. But I don't know that. But at least then I would understand, you know, I'm so used to everything starting on the right for this device to start on the left. I really need to draw my attention to that because it's different from everything else in my world. That would make sense to me. Not about which side you drive on, but which way you read. Speaking of, you know, Mara has been working tirelessly on these cookbooks. Being a type 1 diabetic, she has to stay away from sugar. And she has to stay away from foods that are carb heavy because your body turns carbs into sugar. And the result of ingesting this carbs or sugar is a spike in blood sugar that can cause some very serious health issues and has to be chased with expensive medications until it gets leveled back out. The same can occur that if there's no sugar or no carbs, there's other ways that you need to raise that blood sugar that are healthier, more controllable, because if you've got a situation where the body's not maintaining the normal blood sugar level it's supposed to. So it'll fall all the way to the bottom if you ignore it, and it'll rise way up to the top if you ignore it. And that balance is very challenging for anybody that's type 1. I'm sure that, you know, they can explain how frustrating this is to live with all day, every day. So Mara's goal has been to eat in a way that doesn't require so much corrections. And, you know, there's still no cure for this, so we just manage it. And one way you can manage it is simply by choosing healthier options to eat. And a lot of people won't do that because those healthier options taste healthy. But these days, with the advent in food technology and creation of flour replacements and sugar replacements, things are getting better and better and better. And we continue to see new products come out all the time. When we look at
Sugar replacements, you know, we went from like saccharin, turns out not so good for you, large amounts, to numerous other things, to the point now there's something that Mara really likes called allulose, which I guess they're not allowing in the European Union at this time, which I find really offensive. See, the European Union says we don't know what the long-term effects of using allulose are, so we're not allowing it in the country. So any type 1 diabetic living in the European Union does not have this as a choice that they can decide for themselves. But in the meantime, it's been available here in the States for years and it's never been proven to cause a problem. Like anything else, if you have too much of an ingredient, you can have stomach pains and those kind of things, but that's pretty much everything, right? So it's disappointing to me that the European Union would decide we're not going to allow this because we don't know if it's bad for you. Okay, but what if it isn't bad for you? Like, what if it's good for you? Well, they don't know that either. Well, the United States has been using this and there's been no adverse effects for years. How much time do you need to pass before you're convinced? And all of the citizens that are fighting type 1 diabetes, you just remove this as their own choice? You don't allow them to make that choice for themselves, for the quality of their own lives? Like, oh, you have no idea how upsetting this is, because these kind of ingredients can change your whole attitude about healthy foods. And Mara has been making these recipes for darn near as long as she's been alive, and she's acquired a lot of recipes over time. And I said, you know, you should really put these together in a cookbook to help other people and revisit some of those old recipes with new modern ingredient alternatives, because if they were good before, they've got to be even better now when you update them. And so, right behind me, Mara's released a few books. And what's great today is you don't have to be you don't have to create your own publishing company. You don't have to work with a publisher who's going to take a big cut of your profit, decide your book price, decide your book form. You know, they're going to have a layout person. That's all they do. They'll change your words to, you know, in my case, they make my words better when I worked with McGraw-Hill. But in some cases, especially when you're talking about recipes, there may be a certain way of phrasing something that's important that you wouldn't want it rephrased because it may not be understood the way it was intended. So you would have complete control to write anything you want to write. You want to write a novel? You want to write a biography about yourself? Even if it only sells one copy to you that you can put on the table. Amazon allows you to do this for free. There's a movie coming out called Project Hail Mary. That's from the author who wrote The Martian. He worked with no publisher initially. He was just writing for fun. Where are we today? He no longer has a full-time job at Google. He's written 3 books. The Martian, that was converted to a movie with Matt Damon, directed by Ridley Scott. Artemis, which is a short story. And Project Hail Mary, the big blockbuster coming out in a couple weeks, that has Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the famous directors, along with Ryan Gosling. And the reviews from, if you look at YouTube, people are like, yeah, you got to see this. This is a great movie. After the success of the sales of The Martian in a book, did a publisher then pick it up? It's because of the publisher the movie deal happened, because the movie deal, people work with the publishers directly. Anyway, it's a really interesting story that he was just writing for fun. He did not work with a publisher. He was self-published. Then, and any of you, maybe you're bored and you're looking for something to do. Tell a story of your life. Make a photo album. Include some of your favorite photos in your trips and vacations. Put it on your coffee table. Write that novel you've always wanted to write. Don't worry about the grammar or the spelling. Just write it. Don't worry about the cover. Just write the book. And you can self-publish it on Amazon, and it costs you nothing but your time. The more time you spend on it, the better product you'll have. That's what Andy Weir did. That's how The Martian got written. And that's how it was turned into a movie, which has led into him becoming a full-time author, with now his 2nd movie coming out. You got to put the work in. He didn't think about it. He actually sat down and did it. And he didn't do it because he thought maybe someday this will be a movie. He did it because he loved the challenge of it. And it just so happened he did such a damn good job. The book became a #1 seller on Amazon's top 10 sci-fi books, which gathered the attention of the publishers. And from there on, the snowball started to build. Now, we don't know if Mara's cookbooks will catch on in such a way, but it doesn't matter, because if it can help just a handful of people and show them that you don't have to struggle so much with temptation, eating things you know you shouldn't be eating that you're going to pay a price for later, when there can be alternatives to foods that are actually viable alternatives that taste incredibly similar, and, crazy this may sound, you may prefer it. Have you ever met anybody who prefers the taste of Diet Coke over regular Coke? In my mind, that's crazy. It's kind of like that. Sometimes the healthier option can be the one that's actually preferred for flavor. So what we've got here, this is the paperback version of Mara's latest book. Let me get close up on camera too, because I want to talk about it. I'm very proud of her. She spent a lot of time on this. And I didn't even realize how quickly she got this done. I know she was on the computer a lot, but it's not like I'm shoulder surfing and seeing what the heck she's doing. Well, it turns out, I mean, I knew she was working on some recipes, but I didn't realize just how many she got done. And so you've got a picture of the item. You've got the ingredients and the instructions, right? It's not all crowded. Everything's nice and spaced out. And then usually she has nutrition information in here somewhere. Oh, she was putting it in a little box, but yeah, you've got calories, fat, protein. I'm going to guess that's underneath every single recipe for each page, so you have an idea of the like I say, the content of calories, proteins, carbs, fiber, and net carbs for every single recipe. That all has to be calculated out. Each item has to be calculated out. This part is very, very time consuming to calculate that, and then to verify the calculations are correct. So this just got published the first of the month. And this is the hardback edition. Unfortunately, it's the most expensive book that she's done, because she wanted it to be really good quality paper. And I don't know how many people will pay $60 for a hardback book, but it's a fraction of the cost of insulin. And there is $20 cheaper for the paperback, or for like $5, you just get it on Kindle. So this just came out, fresh off the presses. And then prior to that, we've got Flour Power, which is focused on this flour alternative. She's been very fortunate to be working with a gentleman that's created a flour alternative. Well, it's still flour, but it's keto friendly and low carb, and it can replace flour in a lot of dishes. And once again, we kind of follow the same format, although she's got the nutrition information in a box. That's got a picture of the item. You've got the steps involved in, the ingredients, how you put it all together, right? And so these last two books have been, about average size. The first book she did, she wasn't happy with the way it presented on the page. And then from what she learned after doing the second book, she decided, I want to go back and redo the first book. And the first book was like hard to choose from thousands of recipes. So she has a little bit of everything in here. And you have probably 2 to 3 times more recipes in this book. And so if you notice there's another book that's out of print, it's because she said, let's just get rid of that book. Let's redo that book, a do-over. So this is the do-over. And if you're wanting to eat healthier, and especially if you rely on insulin on a regular basis, You could make your life so much easier by making better choices in what you're eating. And I know that because I see it firsthand every day with Mara and the choices she makes. And it does require a bit of discipline, but you can make that so much easier if you can utilize new ingredients that didn't exist a few years ago to replace other ingredients that are just universally known to spike blood sugars. Or maybe you just want to be keto, right? Or maybe, I think, yeah, that's omnivore. I thought she did one that was only vegan, but there are vegan recipes as well. So if that's your deal and you want to avoid meat, you want to avoid carbs, you want to avoid sugar, if you're keto, whatever your excuse is for wanting to eat healthier, you just might find a couple brand new favorites once you try these recipes out. And of course, because they're all broken down, if you have a personal preference that you like things a little more salty or you like things a little more spicy, right there, all you got to do is make that little change. And now suddenly you've got a new favorite. So yeah, we were super excited to get these in the mail. And again, the Kindle versions are much, much cheaper if you prefer to go that way.
One thing that's important to note is not only is everything low carb, sugar free, keto, they're also very high protein. Is if you have, like much of the planet nowadays that's doing any of the GLP, this supports that, and this supports anybody who's using that to also but maintain the diet requirements.
And book 4 will be out next week.
Right. Still working on that.
How many of your recipes, have you used all your recipes up now? There's nothing left?
Gosh, no, heck no.
This is just
So the recipes that
a drop
I
in the
invented,
bucket.
let's say 30 years ago,
Yeah.
I have to move them up to what's currently made.
Yeah,
Because back
they have to be
then,
updated.
wasn't much to choose. And then over time, more stuff came out, and then I was doing what other people were doing, which was like almond flour, coconut. And as of today, I try to only use flour as an addition to the unbelievable flour, if I need to for texture or taste or that's necessary. But I do tend to use unbelievable flour only in most of those.
If you were to publish every recipe you know,
yeah,
how tall would this stack be?
well, the book would be about 3,000.
So we're not even, what, a quarter of the way?
That's just a very small fraction of what I have.
So there's more coming.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
That's the great thing, is it doesn't really matter how many books she sells. If she enjoys having her own record of her own recipes, instead of having them written in notes, it doesn't cost her anything to have Amazon produce the book. In fact, Amazon won't even make the book until someone orders it. So she has to submit everything required for the printer, but there's no money being spent. Amazon's just collecting the data, right? It's like a Word document. And then when somebody clicks to buy the book, and she's already decided like the paperback size, the quality of the paper, there's a cost to what that's going to cost to print, and then she can make like $5. So
yeah, with this latest book, so one of the reasons that I chose a higher quality paper and also the colors and the images was because when I personally am looking through a cookbook, I want really good pictures. I want to be able to see details of whatever the item is. I get an idea of what it is that I do with it. And I just want really good pictures.
So for example, you could have
decent
printed
quality
this,
paper.
you could have printed this size, like a paperback book, in black and white.
Yes.
And then it'd be really hard to keep the binder open when you're trying to hold a recipe
Right.
and look at it.
Right.
The text is going to be really small, and the whole book will be black and white, but that might sell for like $15 or $18.
It's probably even cheaper.
Maybe less.
But
So when you want a
choosing
book that you
one,
can open and, you know, kind of lay it flat, that's a consideration that she has
yeah.
and choices that she's making when she's laying out the size, the dimensions, the font size, and whether or not she wants it in color and the quality of the paper. After that, Amazon says, yeah, you can have whatever you want. You know, she could have made the book this big if she wanted to. That's going to affect how much it's going to cost to manufacture.
Yeah, that's why it's a crisis. Higher quality.
Yeah, I don't want anybody thinking for a minute that she's gotten greedy. Regardless of which book that you buy, whether it's the $5 Kindle book or the $60 latest hardback, I think she makes about 5%.
Look at that.
Well, if the Kindle's like $5,
Mhm.
she make like $1? No,
Less than that. It's
60 cents.
It's like 60.
And then on a $60 book, you make like $5,
I would say 50.
a little less than $5.
Yeah.
So that's just because she went with better quality materials, because it's important for her to have a good, nice looking
I
product.
want the pictures to be very clear.
Now, if she had 10,000 of these books already pre-ordered, that price would have been a lot cheaper. I'm just saying, big publishers, they're printing tens of thousands of copies, and the more copies you print, the cheaper the cost per print is. So because these are print on demand, there is no inventory of them. Amazon will simply print them when you order them. And if the book starts selling a lot, then Amazon may, in and of themselves, want to make more money and say, let's go ahead and, they'll do the math. They'll say, well, we're growing by this much. If we go ahead and pre-print these books now and put them in our inventory, we'll make more profit. And so the price may also come down in that circumstance. So just so you know, publishers put all that money up front. Publishers will spend, tens of thousands of dollars pre-ordering books, and even more money distributing them to the bookstores and the sellers in the hopes that they'll sell. And when they don't sell, there's a routine that bookstores use where they rip the covers off the books and throw them into the trash, and they take it as a tax deduction. So by doing print on demand, there is a little bit higher cost to the product, but there's no waste. And that's why it's done that way.
Thank you.
All right, get back to book 4.
Yeah.
Remember, I've got 2 of the same book here. This is the paperback. This is the hardback. But the Kindle versions are very, very inexpensive. So, yeah, how cool is that? And even if you never sold a copy to anybody but yourself, to have that permanent record of your recipes. We were watching, who did that? Toll House Cookies, Wakefield, is that her name? The iconic Toll House chocolate chip cookie was created in 1938 by Ruth Wakefield at the Toll House Inn in Whitman, Massachusetts. And while making cookies, she ran out of baker's chocolate and substituted chopped up Nestle semi-sweet chocolate bars. The chunks did not melt, creating the first chocolate chip cookie. And she, I think she sold the recipe for $1 to Nestle plus a lifetime supply of chocolate or something, but continued to run her restaurant, the Toll House Inn. And she wrote a cookbook, which I think is really interesting. And this is the point I want to get to here. If I go to Amazon, let me share my screen with you here. If I go to Amazon and I type in Wakefield Toll House, she wrote a cookbook a long, long time ago. And that cookbook is still reprinted today from her original recipes. Now, while this book came out, what I want you to keep in mind, in 1977, she died in 1977. So I think this book was out much, much earlier, maybe in the 30s or 40s. And let's see, Ruth Wakefield. Wiki. Yeah, she died in 1977, the age of 73 years old. And her cookbook, is still sought after today. The recipes that she was making back in the 1930s and 1940s, those are the recipes that are in that cookbook that says 1977. But this, yeah, came out in 1931. There it is. Her recipes were so popular, she released multiple cookbooks, the most popular being the one in 1931. So you never quite know, you know, by documenting this and having a permanent record of it, how this can continue to benefit people long after you're gone. Just people following their passion. You know, she loved to cook, and sometimes you end up making something you never intended to make because of the circumstances, like in the case of running out of chocolate. Well, we use this instead. And now the chocolate's not melting and you have these chips of chocolate. And now you've invented something that is probably the most common type of cookie eaten, at least in the United States. I don't know if it's worldwide. What percentage of cookies sold are chocolate chip? Remember, chocolate chip cookie didn't exist before that. Americans consume about 7 billion chocolate chip cookies annually, and not just top seller Chips Ahoy. Chocolate chip cookies hold 18% of the market. Wafer cookies hold 12%. Peanut butter, oatmeal, sugar cookies, snickerdoodles, those make up like the remaining 43%. Oh, I missed 27%. So sandwich cookies like Oreos, they make up 27%. That's number one. Chocolate chip is number two. Wafers number three. And all the other flavors number four. I'm just fascinated by that. It's on a big, big scale. It's a lot of cookies. Elijah says, Mara, I'm going to buy all of your eat books. Send me fast info if you can. We should have links to all the books in the video notes today. If not, I'm sure Mara has already put them there or is doing that now. So just look in our video notes and you'll see links. You can also, by the way, if you simply just go to Amazon, let me go back to Amazon, let me show you. Let me turn on my screen capture again. And just search Maralina DG. You should see all of her cookbooks up here. Maralina space DG. You got to put the space. So that's the brand new one on top. That's the second one. You'll see paperback, hardcover, or Kindle. Paperback, hardcover, or Kindle. And this one, I can't believe it's healthy. This is book number one that we retracted that book. I say we. She retracted that book and completely redesigned it. Every single page she went through and redid the formatting and the cover. It changed the title. You know, said, hey, if I could do this over again, I'd do it differently. So that's what she did. That's why it says out of print. So, you know, that's how we learn. From her first experience, she's growing from that to her second. And I think you'll see a continual improvement in how the book looks and the formatting of the book. Every time she does it, she just gets better and better. But this one, the first one, she was so unhappy with it. She's like, no, she wasn't really proud of it. She says, well, now that I know what I know, I would redo this. And so she redid it, and that became this Feast of Fables here. So if you're wondering, how can I get this one? Don't. That was the starter book, we'll call it that. But that's an easy way that you can find them on Amazon. And they should be available around the world. Again, it's print on demand, so only in English, though. I don't think they do any auto translations.
And Mara has the links in the video notes, so she just confirmed that. Bajingai said, I purchased that last book for Kindle because I do most of my reading on iPad. Yeah, that's what Mara does too. I still like to hold a book in my hands, a regular book, but I know a lot of people prefer reading on digital devices. And that's why it's offered in all the different formats for the preferences of the individuals. A lot of people will take a tablet into the kitchen. It just takes up less counter space, and they can pull the recipes up and touch the screen. And it doesn't matter if your hands are a little bit messy. You don't want to stain the book or mar up the pages because you're trying to turn a page and there's chocolate or something on your fingers, and now you got to explain to people, hey, don't worry, it's just chocolate. Let's see. Do I have any opinion on age verification by an operating system? I don't have opinions on people's imaginations. So if all you're doing is thinking up excuses to be wary or have anxiety over what might be, it also might never be. And I think it's a complete waste of time to sit around using your brain power to think about what you're going to do if a company that you have no control over implements some sort of a feature that you don't like. You always have the option to make another choice. So my answer would be, if any company did anything that I did not approve of, I would not give that company my business. It's quite simple. Unless I'm in charge of the company, or it matters enough to me to pursue a career at that company so I can make the change, my choice is to make another choice. If I don't like the direction McDonald's has gone in, McDonald's around here is basically takeout only now. They don't want you in there. They don't want your business. You can't get your own drinks anymore. You can't get your own salt and pepper. You can't even get your own napkins. What you've got is an interior that looks like a prison cafeteria. There's no security guard. Homeless people are in there sleeping. There's no employees to be seen. They're all back behind the wall making orders for the drive-through. The drive-through has a line constantly. So clearly the culture doesn't want to eat in the McDonald's. They just want to take the food and go, and McDonald's is redesigning their restaurants to accommodate pickup and delivery orders, from places like DoorDash. That's it. And while there's still tables and chairs, you can no longer help yourself to anything. You will order with your phone or the kiosk. You will scan the table number that's embedded in the table, and someone from behind a magic wall will appear with your food. They won't ask you if it's okay. They won't ask you to check it. And if you didn't ask for a stir stick for your coffee, you ain't getting one. And if you want to get up and walk up to the counter, there's nobody standing there to ask for the stir stick. You have to just wait until eventually you are seen and your food is getting cold. So I don't like it. So guess what? I don't eat there anymore. It's very easy to solve these problems. The world is not meant to accommodate you and your preferences. You vote with your money, and if a company, regardless if it's an operating system or a car manufacturer, if you feel that it doesn't sit well with you, take your business somewhere else. That's it. At the end of the day, the market will decide the future of the company's decisions. What you think about it doesn't matter. And unless you're in a position of power or control at that company, they don't really care because you're not paying their bills. Losing one customer when you're serving 2,000 a day doesn't matter. They'll take you, they'll leave you, they don't care. It's got to happen en masse where the company is forced to make a change. So you do your part by leading by example. The change you want starts with you. Make better decisions. For you to be upset at a company is you being really upset at yourself for choosing to use that company. So the person you should be mad at is you. That's my opinion on it. That's a new California law. Well, again, there's a couple things regarding California. you'll see, one, a lot of people, a lot of successful businesses and whatnot moving out of the state because they no longer wish to be a part of that. They don't want their tax dollars to go to living in this place that California is living by different rules than the rest of the United States. And living there is a choice. You could pretty much sell any property you have in California and buy a property nearly anywhere else in the United States and have money left over. So living there is a choice. And if you're renting there, any amount of money that you can afford for rent, you could easily get a much nicer place for less money literally anywhere outside of that state. So that's step one. Don't live there, and those rules don't apply to you. California makes up a very small percentage of population overall of the United States. It's a very large state, and it's got 3 very crowded urban areas: San Francisco, LA, and San Diego, and that's it. They're not decision makers for the rest of the country. And if you choose to live in that environment, don't complain about it. And if you hate it so much, move away. Now, with regards to age verification being enforced, I'm not quite sure how they're going to do that. You know, they can pass laws that say something like sodomy is illegal, but I don't know how they're going to know. How do they enforce that law? So there's something that's written on books that is unenforceable for most situations where it doesn't really make any sense. And I just think that most people, from what I can tell, who care about these things, at least vocally online, I suspect a lot of them are doing something they know is illegal, and now they're afraid they won't be able to do that illegal thing anymore. And I know that sounds terrible. I realize I'm pigeonholing a lot of people who may not be. But people that want to pirate and they want to be able to use BitTorrent for pirating, they want to be able to download TV shows and movies and music. They know what they're doing is illegal, and they want to be able to get away with it without getting caught, just like any other thief. And if they're implementing things like age verification, it does open up a concern with regards to those databases, which has already happened, by the way, being breached by hackers and collecting all that private information. And I wouldn't worry about it because I can't see any way they can enforce it. Honestly, I don't know how they can enforce it. If, for example, you were to go to Facebook and Facebook said, we need to verify your age, and you're not willing to give them that information about yourself, don't use Facebook anymore. Or, you know, you can circumvent the law and you can break the law, and you could modify your IP address to represent that it appears to be coming from another country where that law does not apply. So I guess it doesn't matter if you're breaking the law anyway, that you're just breaking another one to get around that new one. I can't see any enforcement being done unless what you're doing is egregious. If it's some sort of child pornography or something that's pretty serious. If you're downloading music or movies or watching TV shows, it hasn't gotten to that point where anybody really cares, unless you're broadcasting them at a bar and you're making money from the broadcast. But it's still illegal, right? Regardless. It's just how much effort and money they want to spend to enforce that. I wouldn't worry about it. There's absolutely nothing that requires age verification that you can't live without. You just want it. I mean, I want a Rolls Royce. Somehow I've gotten by without one. I think everything will be okay. I think that they'll realize the security concern of age verification is one that opens up a Pandora's box of opportunities for identity theft, and they'll get there. Probably won't take very long to realize that that's just not going to work. They'll have to. When you have a problem in your culture, you can't really legislate morality. That's the problem. And they said this 200 years ago, and it's still revisiting the same subject matter over and over and over again. When you have people in a city that are driving really fast down a road, and they're driving so fast that on this road, in this one area, accidents keep occurring. And they say to the city,
Why do so many accidents keep happening here? And that road is no different than any other road. But for some reason, in this culture, in this community, they're all getting into accidents here. Like this area gets more accidents than any other area. Even though it's the same road, same exact width, length, you know, everything about it is the same as what can be found in other areas. This one in particular is having a lot of accidents. And so people go to the government and say, how do you fix this? Well, people are stupid. I mean, they're making very bad decisions. They're not victims. For whatever reason, the people that live in that area that drive down that road go 3 times the rated speed limit. The same road, the same speed limit located somewhere else, these problems don't exist. So what you have is a cultural problem with the people. And how do you fix that? I say let them crash. I realize that's a very cold attitude, but if you're that dumb, let the problem solve itself. Let enough people just keep wrecking into the walls until, first of all, their cars are off the road. And if they've injured themselves, they've got it into their head not to do that anymore. And each person will, you know, eventually have their turn and get smarter at the cost of some property damage. Or you put it on the government to spend taxpayer money to put up barriers and barricades and redesign to accommodate the current culture. I mean, they just arrested a 19-year-old driver for going the wrong way on the same freeway 4 different times. He didn't just do it once. He's done it 4 times. You can't stop people from being morons. So eventually, this is a problem, if it continues, that nature will solve on its own. And it might take out some innocent people, unfortunately, who didn't do anything wrong. Because even if you take away that person's license, they can still drive a car. You know, California has a ban on certain kinds of guns, but those guns are all over in California. You can have the laws. You can say murder is illegal. People still murder. Okay, so I don't know what you think this is going to change, but just because you write something down on a piece of paper and say this is a law doesn't mean it's going to stop happening. And when you have a culture of people that live in a certain area that all behave more so in a certain behavior than other places around the same state, that's a problem in the area. And if you know how to fix that, please share it with the rest of us, because I think it's a waste of time to try and fix it. Because they're going to do what they're going to do until they can't do it anymore. Some of them might learn a lesson. You know, driving the wrong way on a freeway is a pretty scary thing, to have cars coming at you at high speed. You'd think that would leave a little trauma, and you'd want to be extra careful the next time you get on a freeway for the rest of your life. You're double, triple, quadruple checking you're going the right way. Some people, 4 times, just keep repeating the same mistake. There aren't answers to everything in life. Life is messy, and it's not fair. It's unjust. And there are those among us that aren't going to live as long because they're very bad at decision making. And you could be a victim of that bad decision making, and there's not much you can do about it. Welcome to life. It's not a video game. It's not Disneyland. There's no manager for you to talk to. So be careful. And start with the person in the mirror. Be the change you want to see before you start expecting other people to. Because at least that you have control over. W. Holmes says he loves California. He doesn't like the cost, but he stays because he loves everything about it. I lived in California for a while, and I would rather be in prison. Honestly, prisons are less crowded. You don't have to worry about the price of the rent. You don't have to worry about when I say California, I'm referring to San Diego, LA, and San Francisco. Other parts of California are fine. You know, if you go towards the desert areas, Sierra Mountains, or further north. But when I say California, I'm talking about San Diego, LA, and San Francisco. I'd rather just put me in a jail cell. I would have a much better time. That's how much I don't like it. Overcrowded, overpriced, too many restrictions. You try and turn water on, you get almost zero water pressure. I tried to order a shower head from Amazon. They said, I can't ship your shower head to California. What is it's a shower head. Yeah. So I can ship it to Arizona, put it in the trunk of my car. No one's checking my car when I drive into California. Oh, he's got an illegal shower head. Move over, pull over to the side. We're going to have a talk with you. Nobody's coming into the house to see what kind of shower head you've got. So I can order the shower head in Phoenix. And then when I drive to California, unscrew the crappy shower head with no water pressure, put on the good one. And you know what the Californians say? Don't you do that. Do you know how much my water bill is going to be? Have you seen how much our water bill is in Los Angeles? I don't know, I live in a desert. It can't be much worse than that. Oh, it's about 15 times worse. How do you live here? And then you sit in traffic and everything's expensive and it's overcrowded. And oh my gosh, have you been to the airport? I can't do it, man. Put me in the middle of the woods in Butte, Montana. Stick me in South Dakota somewhere. Much happier in the woods somewhere in Michigan than some big urban crawling city just jammed with homelessness and shoplifting and constant burglaries. It's just a big place of desperation, and that's all I see when I go there. It's just desperation. I just can't. I'm glad you enjoy it. If I'm not there, you start without me. Now, back in the 70s and the early 80s, it was a different place, but not anymore. Hey, there's Mitch Morrison joining us. Happy birthday to Mitch. San Diego is not any more crowded than Phoenix. I can promise you that if you want to drive somewhere in Phoenix that's 40 miles away, you will get there in 1/2 to 1/3 of the amount of time. And if you drive, let's say, 40 miles from a suburb of San Diego into San Diego, or the other side, like you've got to drive through San Diego. So you can look at the numbers all day long, but the reality is you're going to pay more for the gas, you're going to pay more for the insurance, you're going to pay more to live there, and it's going to take you 2 to 3 times longer to go the same distances. You're in the car for a long time in California to go a relatively short distance that could be covered in far less time in Phoenix. So ask me how I know. It's pretty bad. LA's even worse. San Diego's bad. LA's worse. But, you know, that may not bother you. You know, it's just maybe my own preference or my own tolerance.
Yeah.
And Mara says we've got an email. Let's see. I keep clicking the wrong thing here. What do we have? Oh. Mark Leibowitz sends a birthday contribution to Mara. Wait a minute. He says this is happy birthday to himself. Here's my favorite birthday present. Use it well. And it's a very nice, generous Amazon gift card. How was it birthday to you? Did you have a birthday recently? Did I miss it? Well, everybody's got birthdays in March. I just want to, now you got me curious. What is the population of San Diego versus Phoenix? It says, as of a recent 2024 to 2026 census data, Phoenix has a significantly higher population than San Diego. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the US with over 1.6 million residents, while San Diego is the 8th largest with a population exceeding 1.37 million. 1.37 million versus 1.6, they're pretty close to the same size. However, Phoenix has a much larger metro area with nearly 4.8 million people. So a lot of times when we're focused just on the city, we forget about all of the suburbs and the county. So San Diego County is much smaller. Let's see what size it is. I'm just curious now. It's approximately 4,200 to 4,500 square miles, making it the 9th largest county in California by area. That's actually bigger than I thought. And then let's do Maricopa County, which is Phoenix. Maricopa County's twice. It's 9,224 square miles. So nearly twice the size of the county. And what that means is there's room for people to spread out. It's not so confined. San Diego's very, very condensed. And that's the thing that I need space. I need, stay an arm's length away. That's why I loved about COVID, 6 feet. I'm all about that. Give me my 6 feet. If I'm somewhere like Disneyland or Costco and people are right up next to me, there's like this uneasiness. It's overwhelming that I can't get out quickly, or someone could easily pickpocket me, or it's just somebody's got a cold and I'm going to catch it because they're too damn close to me. Give me my space. And I think that's one of my less populated areas so much more appealing, is they're quieter. There's not so much stress. And there's not so much activity constantly buzzing, helicopters, ambulances, loud mufflers, blaring music, people going door to door trying to sell you something. All that stops when you kind of move away from the big city. And if I was a lot younger and I was, trying to find my way in the world, living somewhere like New York City or Boston, Chicago, Seattle, one of these areas that's just a hub of activity, there's a great opportunity for you where you don't have a lot of money and you're looking for a lot of opportunity. You can walk to work. If you live in Washington, a lot of times the apartment you live in could be walking distance from the place you work, or even a bike ride. With Phoenix being as big as and spread out as it is, and as crowded, there's a lot of competition in the marketplace. And sometimes, like when I worked at Intel, I drove 32 miles from where I lived to where the Intel campus was in each direction. So 32 miles to get there, 32 miles to come back. And that was before the population exploded. This was the 90s, mid 90s. And Phoenix has grown exponentially since then. In fact, what was the population of Phoenix in 1994 versus now? Just to give you an idea, it's doubled. So it went from 2.35 million people to right around 5 million, give or take. So it more than doubled in those 30 years. And as you can imagine, driving that same 32-mile route today would take a lot longer. And if I was in San Diego driving 32 miles to work every day, that would take even longer. Plus you deal with the fog. Yeah, I don't miss the fog either. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. But those are just my personal, to each their own. John Downey says, check Detroit and Wayne County, Michigan. So I was born in Detroit. I was raised in a suburb, just a hop, skip, and a jump from the Detroit city limits. And the population, what was the population? Let's just say Wayne County. In the year I was born, which added 1. 2.67 million in the late 1960s. Today it's gone down. It's projected to be about 1.78 million, which has only gone up over the last year, because last year it was even less, according to this, by 0.49 or %. The population's seen a decrease of negative 1.45% since 2010, but it shows a slight recent growth. See, now that's very appealing to me. Now, people left because there was no opportunity for jobs. People get sick of the weather. I like that stuff. Like, I'm self-employed. I can work from home. I'm not dependent on a motor company or a manufacturer to hire me. Things have changed, at least in my world. I can do what I'm doing right now from anywhere in the world if I have a good enough internet connection. Now, for me personally, where the draw is for me is somewhere on the western side of Michigan, like Grand Rapids. And if I could afford it, Traverse City. Oof. Heck, we visited a little city in southwestern Michigan called Saugatuck. It's beautiful, just pristine, everything. Every yard is kept up well. You're right there on the, I guess it's a river or it's an inlet to the lake. I think it's a river, Saugatuck River. I never heard of Saugatuck when I was growing up in Detroit, but it's a long way away from Detroit. It's the other side of the state. If you drew a line directly across from Detroit all the way to the other side to Lake Michigan, you're pretty much around Saugatuck. And it's a very non-judgmental community. You know, they'll fly their flags and people just, they don't boast about it necessarily, but they're also not doing anything to shut it, you know, to say, oh, you're not welcome here. Everybody's just very accepting. Do your thing. Leave me alone. Do your thing. I love that. And there's a lot of pride in that city. You can tell by the quality of the condition of the houses and the yards. As a result, I can't afford to live there. It is pricey. But man, Mara and I went there, and it's just a neat little town. And you know, now that Mara's seen some documentaries about the brands, food brands that built America, she had no interest prior to visiting Battle Creek. Now she really wants to go. Now she wants to see Kellogg's, and she wants to see the Post Factory and everything in the history there. She's like, okay, because we basically drive right by it when we go on our vacations. It's a little more towards the center, but way down at the bottom of the state. So it wouldn't be maybe 90 minutes to drive there. And I don't think I've ever been there. I don't think we ever went there on a school trip or anything. And I wouldn't want to live there, but I'm told the whole town smells like hot, fresh cereal being made. That's just the permanent air freshener of the city. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's on the bucket list. Terrell says, I'm about 45 minutes south of Traverse City. I'll tell you another area besides Traverse City that's attached to it, which is, again, lots of money, is called Leelanau. And Leelanau is one of the most beautiful peninsulas. Man, it's breathtaking. And the thing about Traverse City, if I were something I didn't like about it, it's very touristy. Very popular tourist destination for people often well-to-do, quite honestly. I mean, families can visit. You don't spend a lot of money, but a lot of the hotels and stuff are very high-end and expensive and hoity-toity. But, you know, they have a little downtown area. It just looks like any other Michigan downtown area, to be frank. And I wanted to go for a drive. It was springtime or fall, and I wanted to really appreciate a nice drive, and I had Googled it, and it said, oh, you need to go on this around the peninsula of Leelanau. Just make a big circle, and it just takes you around the lake for about 3/4 of it. Stunning. Stunning. And the houses that are there, you know, it's not crowded. There's no street takeovers happening in Leelanau. Very little crime. Everybody's yard, everybody's house is in great condition. And it's not hoity-toity. Like, to me, it's not flaunting. It's just quality of life that people are very proud of. It's still too rich for my blood, which makes it hoity-toity in and of itself. But man, just the uncommon places people don't think of. Somebody goes, where are you going on vacation? I'm going to Hawaii. Yeah, where are you going on vacation? I'm going to Leelanau. I'm sorry, where? I would much rather go to the place where somebody's never heard of it, because there's less likely going to be higher prices and be overcrowded and long lines. Had enough of it. I did that already. I've been to Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm and Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and Universal Studio. I've done that so many times. And the last time I went, it's like, enough. This is for young people. Young people who have a lot more money. That's a common theme. A day at Disneyland's at least $500 a person. Easy. One day. When I start making that kind of money every day, maybe if I can break even, I'll go again. But even then, my hip was hurting from all the walking. I think for a week after we got back, I was limping. And I just was hoping this just gets better. And it did. It just kind of went away. But, oh man, my hip was hurting. But we did a lot of walking. Terrell mentions Michigan wine country. Yeah, plus they have the Cherry Festival. And, oh, the best cherries, especially up there around Traverse City. They put cherry in everything. And it doesn't taste like what you probably think cherries taste like. Like if you have a cherry flavored drink or popsicle, no. I got a cherry milkshake in Traverse City that they make with fresh dairy and local cherries when they're in season. I don't even know how to describe it. It's, you know, it's cherry when you're tasting it, but it tastes natural. I don't know any of it. There's a natural taste to it. It doesn't taste so artificial or chemical. It's not so sharp and in your face. It's more subtle and it's more uniform. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not the cherry flavoring. Like grapes don't taste like anything grape flavored, right? Grape is always that purple. What if you've bitten into a grape and it tastes like that? But we come to associate, oh, that's grape, it's purple, right? And it's artificial. And we've done the same with cherry. But when you get real cherries made, you know, into something fresh, a cherry pie, a cherry shake, they even made cherry dog bones that I brought back for the dog. And the cherries are good for their hips. So they have medicinal qualities. And the dog loved them, by the way. The dog loved them. I didn't try one, but I imagine they were pretty good. Mark Leibowitz said it's his birthday today. Right on. Well, happy birthday to Mark Leibowitz. Happy birthday to Mitch Morrison. And happy birthday to Maralina. Look at all these birthdays. At least between yesterday, today, and tomorrow, it covers all three of you. Anybody else we've left out? And I see the cat has decided to join us. Are you trying to tell me it's time to wrap it up? I think she's becoming now the producer, and she says, you've been on long enough. You need to pay attention to me now. I've given you your time. Now give me mine. That or she's lost. I'm not sure. Could be either way. W. Holmes says, you've got to visit Meyer Gardens in Grand Rapids. We were advised, it was recommended to us when we were looking for things to do and when we go to Grand Rapids. And I looked it up online and I said, this looks really boring. This looks like going to a museum outdoors. But so for that reason, I just felt like this looks like something older people do. But I didn't go, so I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And people will say, well, you just really need to go to understand it, how cool it is. And I'm like, I don't like going to museums. Like, I don't want to go looking around at statues and paintings. Like, I find no joy in that. That almost feels like punishment. And from what I saw, this kind of looked like sculptures and gardens. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing a greenhouse, like a working greenhouse, and they're growing fresh fruits. And some of the vegetables and produce we saw in Michigan are the biggest produce and best tasting produce we've ever had. And just everything tastes better in Michigan. And Mara's not from Michigan. When I took her there and I said, "Is it me?" And she's like, "No, it's not you. There's something different." And we've got a picture of Mara. Like here, she buys a cauliflower at the grocery store. It's about yay big. In Michigan, bought a cauliflower that's bigger than her head. That, by the way, she devoured it. And cabbage too. And tomatoes, big tomatoes. She eats hot peppers all the time like they're nothing. She had a jalapeno in Michigan, and actually she felt the heat on it. She was like, "Whoa, I've never seen her react that way." You wouldn't think jalapenos would be hotter in Michigan than they would be in Phoenix. I didn't even know they grew jalapenos in Michigan. We didn't eat them. You know, when I was growing up, we didn't eat spicy food. But the produce is amazing. She even thinks, like if she gets a Pepsi Zero or something, one of her favorite drinks, she thinks it even tastes better. And I think it may be because the air is cleaner. It may be because of all the trees Michigan has and all of the sort of nature cleaning the air that happens between the rain, the trees. We don't have that in Arizona, in Phoenix anyway. You know, you don't see squirrels and caterpillars, stuff like that.
The produce is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely go there for that.
What we enjoyed doing is canoeing. There's lots of rivers in Michigan, and they all kind of look alike for the most part. They're mostly pretty shallow, probably about 30 feet, 40 feet wide, 60 feet wide. They can range anywhere from, you know, a foot in depth, and depending on where you are in the river, they could go down 6, 10 feet. Rent a canoe and just go with the flow of the river. And we're often the only ones on the river. Pretty rare you run into anybody else. And when you do, they're very friendly. It's all very quiet, and you're just surrounded by nature. We saw wild horses running in Michigan. Horses? You'd think you'd see that in Arizona. Yeah, wild horses just roaming. We've seen hawks and just all kinds of really cool wildlife that we don't normally get to see out here. And, you know, in the spring or in the fall, the weather's fantastic. The forest and everything reflecting off the water. You can't take a bad picture. And it's great exercise. We don't have anywhere to be, so we take our time. And definitely something I used to do as a child, would go to the Au Sable River and do that. My parents would get rid of us by renting a canoe, putting me and my brother on it, and say, "We'll pick you up later." We loved it. We loved that independence and freedom. So as an adult, I like to relive that, although it's not the Au Sable River I've been going on. It's the, what's the name of that river? The Thornapple River. If I took a picture of both rivers, you'd have a hard time knowing that was a different river. They're so similar. And at least the parts of it that we go down. And then, of course, you've got all the lakes. Tons and tons and tons of lakes. So the computer side of me that loves the technology likes to be counterbalanced with just getting back to nature and getting back to the basics. I love that. So I'm always trying and keep that pendulum swinging back and forth. I don't like it always to one side. So, you know, I'll have my cell phone with me when I'm in the canoe, and I'll take it out to take pictures or to make little videos because I'm using it as a camera. And should there be an emergency, I can make a call. But, you know, back in the 70s, we didn't have that. We just got in the canoe and our parents said, "See ya." So if anything happened, they'll find out eventually. So, you know, to have the phone and to have the technology is great, but also to be without it is great too. Mitch and I did a walk. It's been about 2 years now, I think. We just decided to go about 90 minutes north of Phoenix into a town called Pine. And in Pine, there's lots of forests and trails, and one leads to a waterfall, and it's a great exercise. But I'll tell you what, it's a little cooler when you go north. You drop the temperature by about 20 degrees. But if it's 100 degrees in Phoenix and it's 80 degrees up north, it's still really hot to be hiking, especially if you're hiking up a hill. In which case, I'd like it to be 60 degrees so I can just kind of rest and let the cool air blow over my sweat. So we had to stop, both him and I, just to take a break for a minute and we're just walking. It's not like we're running. But it's not a flat paved surface. It's an uneven surface, and it goes up and it goes down. And anyway, when you go all the way down into the ravine, there's a cave and a waterfall, and it's really, really cool. And then, of course, the walk back up is even more difficult, because not only are you still going up and down, but you're mostly going up. And it's like, yeah, they have little benches to sit at and rest. We got nowhere to be. And it was a great day, and saw maybe 10 other people total from the walk down to the walk back up. That was it. Everything's quiet. Nobody's blaring any music. You don't hear any loud engines roaring or tires squealing or helicopters flying overhead, ambulances. It's just nice and peaceful. It's just the sound of nature, the sound of the waterfall. And you can be in that moment without all the distraction. There's no billboards. It ain't Las Vegas, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I love that stuff. Mitch is getting ready for another one of his worldly trips. He is, I think next week, if I'm not mistaken, sometime soon, heading off to Taiwan. So he'll send us some video, I hope, saying hello from Taipei, where I understand it's hot and humid. So better him than me. But the problem is, in Phoenix, where temperatures, we've been hitting new record highs this early in the year. It's supposed to be cooling down right about the time Mitch leaves. I think that's a theme. He needs to go in the summertime to get out of the Phoenix heat. Literally anywhere would be cooler. But he knows. I think he's going to be making another trip in the summer. He's like me. He's like, these summers are just harder and harder year after year to withstand. Getting older doesn't help, and the temperature's going up. Year after year, getting hotter and hotter, having one hot summer after another. Which is worse, that or shoveling the snow? I don't know. I guess you could live in California or Hawaii and just pay a lot of money and live in an overcrowded place, but that's why it's overcrowded. Everybody wants to be there, and that's why everything's so expensive. So maybe a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live in either one of those. Maybe somewhere where the temperature is more moderate temperature, like Carolinas. Maybe. But I think Grand Rapids doesn't get anywhere near as much snow as like Detroit would get. It varies from year to year, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look very bad. You get a couple bad days. But what do I know? I haven't been there in the wintertime in Grand Rapids. But I follow the news. Wood TV, WOOD TV is Grand Rapids News. And just looking at their news compared to our local news, it's a very big difference on what's a big story there, let me tell you. The frequency of shootings, it doesn't happen as frequently as it does here. So they're much bigger stories when it happens in Grand Rapids. So yeah, I like to go to woodtv.com and just see the local news, because it's definitely not as scary. It's not just one fear story after another. They have them, just not as many. W. Holmes says, in California, we like to camp and go kayaking on a lake at Lassen Volcanic National Park. See, I've never even heard of that. In California, look, you go to Yosemite or something, it's beautiful. It's also crowded, but it's beautiful. And it's a big big place, so it's not crowded like Disneyland, but still. And if you can get out of the big cities, you know, if you get out of San Diego, far enough away from Los Angeles, far enough away from San Francisco, and you go somewhere maybe, you know, like Doug Betts lives in Fresno. Nice little town. Very close to Yosemite. And it doesn't look like the California in Fresno that you see on TV. And Michigan isn't all Detroit either. You know, TV likes to focus on these little areas of negative. Michigan's a big place. You know, Ohio's a big place too. I used to think Ohio was tiny, but no, Ohio's a pretty big place. And I see a lot of similarities with Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio, and even Illinois, which makes sense because they're all right next to each other. So a lot of the culture bleed over is there. There's still some cultural differences, but it's more familiar to me than the California culture or the Western culture or the Pacific Northwest culture. That is mostly foreign to me. When I'm in that part of the country, Michigan, Illinois, I don't know much about Indiana. But if it's all regional, if the culture is regional, then it would make sense that those states that are all near each other probably share more than they have different, you know, with in their cultures. And if you like to be around birds of a feather, somebody that was raised with similar values, probably need to stay within a certain region, I would guess. Andy said he used to live in Fresno. Yeah. W. Holmes says Grand Rapids gets lots of lake effect snow, better ski hills over there than Eastern Michigan. I think, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've got to be near the lake. So if you are more inland in Grand Rapids, I don't know how much lake effect really makes any difference. But for sure, if you're next to a lake or close to one, anywhere in Michigan, not just Grand Rapids, that lake effect is going to drop the temperatures and raise the winds the closer you are to it. That's my understanding of it anyway. We didn't have such a thing as lake effect snow in Detroit. That's a term I only heard within the last 15 years. So I was like, what the hell is lake effect? When did we start saying that? But I do believe that if you my understanding is if you live close to a lake, the temperature's drastically colder and icier in the wintertime. Bill Stott said, you know what they say about Ohio? High in the middle and round on both ends. That's funny. I've never heard that before. Seriously. All right, guys. Well, I think it'll wrap it up for today. I want to remind you, the way I started the video out was by talking about when you look online on social media and these people are complaining about Windows updates doing all these bad things or their computers aren't working right, aside from these people who often don't even have a real name that they're using, they want to care about their privacy. We don't know who they are. Do you care what they did today? Because I don't. Yet they think everybody cares about what they did today. We don't even know who you are. So even if we knew what you did, it doesn't really have any concept of why we waste our time thinking about what you did. If we don't know who you are, it doesn't make any sense. The news doesn't publish articles about you got arrested for jaywalking unless you're famous. Then people care. Don't be famous. You've got built-in privacy. So what I want to reiterate is there's so much misinformation. There's so much me. But who are you? And you know, I don't want you to know. I want to keep my privacy. Well, then nothing you say means anything if it's coming from somebody that won't expose who they are. You might as well not even be real. You might be imaginary. I don't know. So you got to pick one side or the other. And because they want the people who do this,
They want to do it their way and they want to shove it down your throat. You don't have to accept it. You can go, look, if you're not man enough to stand behind your words, because freedom of speech allows you to be unidentifiable, then what you have to say doesn't matter to me, because I don't think you're even a real person. I think you might be a bot or an AI agent. How would I know? Just take your word for it? No, not today, not anymore. Not if you want me to take you seriously. And if you put yourself in a position where you become a target, your privacy is going to be very important with regards to how people would locate you or cause you harm. I'm behind that 100%. But how many people of the population, what percentage of those who talk actually do something where that really matters? It's insignificant. And for all the people complaining about Windows problems, we've asked this entire broadcast, over 100 people watching us live around the world, if there's any problems you're having. We haven't gotten a single one. So the question you need to ask yourself is, can I relate to this? So just because a group of people are having a particular problem, how does that relate to you? It doesn't. So why would you join their cause or jump on their bandwagon because you want to be included? Is that more important to you? That you just want to feel like you're a part of something? Why not create your own thing? Why do you have to jump on someone else's coattails? You're not capable of having something that you believe in on your own? Only if other people believe it. And even if you've never given it a thought in your life until you saw it on social media, now it's become your number one cause for living. Okay, I guess. But the individuality that we each hold, the unique perspectives and values that we each have, contribute to society by allowing us to stand on our own 2 feet and talk about what's important to us and why. And whether or not somebody agrees with you or they disagree, who cares? Who cares? Because you feel how you feel. And if someone else says, I feel the same, great. Well, birds of a feather, right? Make some friends. We have something in common. And maybe one of you will decide to do something about it besides talk about it. But it will start with that discussion. Now, I might see that discussion and go, I don't know where these people live, but I can't relate to any of their complaints. So I'm not interested. I don't hold any bad feelings towards people, but I'm also not joining their cause because I can't wrap my head around what better things I've got to do than that, unless it's somehow impacting me. But if it is, I've probably already started my own way of dealing with it, not waiting for somebody else to. Start with you. And if you're not willing to start with it, why would you be so eager to jump on someone else's bandwagon unless there's something in it for you? Or it's just entertainment and boredom. And you need to discern that when you're looking online, because what people are jumping in groups and all going, me too, we don't actually see in real life in our chat room. It's not happening. It's like these anonymous people who may or may not actually exist. They may be AI, they may be bots. They may be troublemakers or extremely bored. We don't know anything about what motivates them to post, but we can control what we choose to allow to affect us, to worry us, or to have us think, wow, I need to do something about it. And so in our community here, where we know one another, even if we know you as a pen name, we still get to know you. We can help, or we can make an attempt to help somebody who we know truly exists and has a real problem as a community. And I'd like to see more of the community happening online over the internet than this every man for himself. And we're going to go off into different tribes. And then that just leads to battling one another, which is just so primal and uncivilized. I can't allow myself to be a part of that. So I will start with me. I'll look in the mirror and say, I'm not joining that. What matters to me is the false information that reputable sites are now posting as news that aren't news, they're gossip. And I've lost respect for PC World Magazine. I've lost respect for Tom's Hardware. I've lost respect for hothardware.com. These were sites that were go-to, trustworthy, and now They're all doing the same sort of desperate, thirsty scramble for attention. And it doesn't matter if it's factual or not. We'll apologize later. Let's just be first. I can't stop that train. Nothing I complain about it can stop it. But I do know if I go to these sites, and I still go to PC World and Tom's Hardware, because I'm not saying everything they do is affected by this. But it used to be zero, with rare exception. Now it's getting more and more common that they're publishing false information and misunderstood information by people who claim to be tech journalists that don't have a fraction of technologists of technology understanding that should qualify them for the position. But now they're pretty much so desperate to get anybody who'll write, they'll take pretty much anyone. If you want to write for PC World Magazine or Tom's Hardware or Hot Hardware, it's a pretty easy job to get. People don't want to write. And so long as you have a modicum of tech knowledge, you're good to go. It's never been easier. Back when I was writing, you had to pass certain qualifications. Those qualifications, so far as I can tell, even all the way up to the editor in charge, they don't have them anymore. They're just gone. Have you published before? Well, I published a cookbook. Well, you're fine. Let's go. You're hired. Will you take this amount of money? I'll take it. You start Monday, you know. The result is the quality of what's coming out now is severely degraded to what it used to be. And the desperation for attention, instead of publishing news for the sake of news, they publish for the sake of clicks. And the more you can publish, the more clicks you can get. The more clicks you can get, the more profitable you are. And so this has shifted over time. So since I can't change it, I can choose not to participate in it, and I can help the audience understand what you're reading if you want to make that choice knowledgeably, that you can identify this is nonsense, but I want to read nonsense, or this is nonsense and I don't want to read it. But just to give you the red flags to look for, and that it's a trend that is getting worse. And I don't see any end to it. I can just see it getting worse and worse and worse. When the publisher doesn't have enough knowledge to separate AI hallucinogenic content for stories, and that's their job, and they don't even know how to do it, I don't know what you and I are going to do about it. It's pretty basic stuff, and they don't even have it anymore. So they're under so much pressure to publish so much stuff, any one story doesn't really get that much scrutiny. Basic grammatical errors and typos, they just go out. They don't care. Because in 3 days' time, you will have forgotten about that article, and they will have published 30 more articles since then. And they're working at such a high volume that the quality of what they're producing is just reduced to what it used to be, to being, in some cases, completely valueless and a complete waste of time. So not every article, but it's definitely a trend that's getting more and more popular. And just be aware of it, and just be aware of what you're reading, and fact check. Even when you hear me say something, you'll see me going to fact check myself, as I've done today. There's no reason not to. It takes a few seconds. And when you can't even be bothered, well, I guess you get what you wanted, right? You got to hear what you wanted to hear, not necessarily what the truth is. And when people won't exercise, you're a publisher and you won't even take a few seconds to verify what one of your editors wrote, I think that says a lot about the company. And it's changed what their purpose is. It's really about publish or perish. Doesn't really matter what you write anymore. Just get the clicks. And somehow we as the viewers, the onus is on us to identify which of these articles have value and which of these articles are completely nonsense. So to each your own, and knowledge is power. I'm a better skeptic after being here for a few months, says Debbie Holmes. And that's what I want. I don't want you to be paranoid, right? But I absolutely want you to be skeptical, for sure. When you're reading things about Windows 12, the last thing you would expect as a respected publisher who's been publishing tech news for 30, 40 years to not know what they published is nonsense. Like, it's basic nonsense. It's such a baseline of knowledge. How could you not know it? And if you've been in the business 40 years, the longer you've been in the business, the less excusable it is. So if I take you over to PC World Magazine, you're going to find an apology in here. Again, more users report users. Who are these users? Where's the source of this information? It's not verified, and no companies are complaining. How come it's only the end users and not the corporations that rely on Windows? Why is it the end users only? And who are these end users? But hey, we don't need to verify this. That's what they said, and they're doing it in mass, so therefore it's story-worthy. That's not how it used to be. Yeah, there's a little bit about the, obviously an opinion piece here, the privacy laws in California. We messed up. No publisher should ever have made a mistake this obvious. And saying we're sorry and we'll get better. They're not new at this. I mean, if you run a magazine that specializes for 4 decades in talking tech, and you've now hired staff that don't have any baseline knowledge of the most basic information and can't be bothered to fact check anything before they publish it, you end up with this. So they're creating their own news. Now we're going to talk about us. So today's article is all about us. It's like when the news crew goes on site, and because they're there, they become the news. Well, while we were here, a gentleman smashed our car. We've got it on film. So now the news is talking about the news because it's news, and they want to report on the news that had they not been there would have never been news, that they constantly create through their interaction of bringing you the news that creates the news. It's crazy. Anything to get a story. And excuses. Excuses. We made a mistake. A bad one. It's really, really simple to have fact checked. There's no excuse. It doesn't cost you anything but a few minutes of your time. And you know, when they said Windows updates are causing SSDs to fail, they're just going off conjecture on social media, and they're not doing any sort of proof. There's no due diligence. They want to get the story out fast. How many times are you going to let these companies get away with it? Because the more desperate they're getting for clicks, the more bait clicky their titles are going to get, and the more outrageous their articles are going to get. And the people they'll hire to do that will be unscrupulous individuals who don't care. I don't care if what I'm writing is real, if it makes me money. Okay? Those people exist. And if they're the ones getting hired for these positions, it's doing so because that's what's paying the bills. So as long as you keep clicking on it, they keep getting paid. So it starts with us. Stop clicking on those articles. If a website is continually offering bad information, don't go there anymore. If enough people do that, the problem solves itself. Phil Stott said the quality of certification has deteriorated significantly over the years. Now you can get journeyman certification in a trade in 3 days of training. My journeyman certification took 4 years. Times are changing. Maybe time to pick another career or find something different. So thank you to everybody for joining us today. As always, we appreciate having you here, and I'm sorry that the industry's in a bit of a stall and we don't have anything new to show you. However, if there's ever any help you need with something that's a problem you are having, not a problem your friend is having or your family, have them reach out to us. We'll help them too. We just don't want to go through a middleman. It makes things very, very challenging. And thank you to Mara, as always, for the thumbnails that she creates, the video notes, the links to her cookbook, the links to the VIP CDK deals, or URCD keys rather, website for the Windows and Office license keys are in her video notes. I want to shout out a thank you once again to our good friend Buster, as well as to Mark Leibowitz, and happy birthday to Mark as well. Also to Mark Gaines, and of course, as I mentioned, our good friend Buster. Happy birthday to Mitch Morrison. Happy birthday, Maralina. And we look forward to seeing you guys back here on Sunday. Still nothing on the schedule. Now, things can happen quick. So just because something's not on the schedule doesn't mean something might pop up. Could be a computer repair, or I might have an idea for something. Otherwise, it'll be another sort of question and answer session. So if you can think of a particular technical issue that you've been living with and forgotten about, be ready on Sunday's show, because that may be what we end up doing. If I think of something I want to demonstrate, I feel like I've already done everything 5 times, from showing how to do Windows networking and update routers and update Windows and make Windows installation media. There's certain topics we've covered over and over and over again. And I just feel like, I really want to do something a little bit different. There's nothing new in the world of NAS. The whole thing about showing you how to bypass Synology drive restrictions, those videos have all been removed because they no longer apply. Synology reverse course, and those videos now stand as toxic information. And I think the responsible thing for any content creator is to take those videos where you got it all wrong, or they're not issues, like how to install a Windows 10 update from 15 months ago. That's all been resolved. You don't need to keep the content up anymore. The only reason people keep it up is for selfish reasons, that they want to keep the views. It pumps their channel up. But I think the ethical, moral thing to do is remove the content, because people will stumble on it and think it still applies when it's that information no longer. There's nothing in that Synology, compatibility drive video that applies anymore. That ship has sailed. It's all been resolved, and the video stands no purpose but to confuse somebody who doesn't understand they're watching an old video. And most content creators will not remove their old content that no longer applies. So again, it's on you, the viewer, to pay attention to when the video was published and to identify if what they're talking about is a real problem or one that only exists in social media. But the date is more important than ever, as YouTube's getting older and that old content is there. Watching a cat video from 15 years ago may still be just as entertaining, but watching a solution to a problem that has since been resolved by the manufacturer is only going to cause more damage and confusion by the refusal of the content creator to remove it. And I think it's a huge injustice to our community, in the tech community as general, where people are so selfish they only think of themselves and have too much pride to take down videos that no longer apply. I'm not that guy. If I have videos that are out of date, and again, the one that comes to mind over and over is the Synology hard drive restriction workaround. There's no point in that video. The only thing that video can serve to do is confuse people. Just get your latest Synology update and everything's fine. And if something changes, we'll make a new video. So I'm trying to keep from remaking the same content over and over. And if I was going to replace the Synology video, say I've deleted it, now what do I replace? I've got nothing to delete it with. There's no new Synologies. There's no problems anybody's whining and complaining about anymore. Synology's already fixed them. That's why, what Mike Unboxing did by showing the dusting and cleanup, that's good stuff. I don't let mine get that bad, so I don't have one I can do that with. Mine are all clean. But yeah, in any event, that's going to wrap it up for us for today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with me. I hope you have a great Friday, and we'll look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Of course, our good friend Doug Betts goes live every Saturday. If you've not watched his videos, I think he starts around noon. And we've got a time change coming up this weekend for everybody but Arizona in the United States. For the most part, everybody's going to put their clocks forward an hour. I start at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. Phoenix does not adjust their clock, ever. It's still 1 o'clock for me on Monday. But in California, instead of being 12 o'clock, because Californians will have moved up an hour, it'll be 1 o'clock. And because people on the East Coast, when it's 3 o'clock, they're going to move their clocks up an hour, it'll be 4 o'clock. When I start at 1 o'clock, like I always do, it's still 1 o'clock here. So just be aware, starting Monday and going forward. Actually, is it midnight on Sunday? It may actually take effect. It's the 8th, right? So midnight on the 8th, Saturday night. So be prepared. I'm not sure because we don't honor it. But the show may start an hour later than you're accustomed to if you're moving your clock up an hour between now and Sunday, okay? I'm not. It's not confusing at all. Thank you again for watching. Thanks to all the members for making these videos possible, supporting us here. And we look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Until then, hopefully I'll see you over on Doug's channel tomorrow during his live broadcast and hang out there in the chat room. And then Mike's unboxing typically goes on also tomorrow live. He's worth checking out. Very entertaining and educational as well. Typically within an hour or two, I want to say after Doug's show ends. It's late at night in the UK when he starts that. And then we're back again on Sunday as regularly scheduled. For what content? We'll see. Until then, thanks for watching and bye for now.